Chapter 2158. His move was very arrogant. It was as if he was pinching an ant instead of Lin Xian. Humph. Lin Xian sneered and drew his demonic sword. His body turned into a sharp sword light and slashed out. Buzz! What a powerful sword chi! The elite powerhouse's expression changed. Damn it, how could he be so powerful? The sword chi was too sharp. It made him feel like he was on the verge of death. He wanted to stop the next moment, but it was too late. Pfft! The sword light flashed and instantly pierced through his hand. Blood flowed wildly as his bones shattered. The elite powerhouse screamed in pain. However, what shocked him even more was yet to come. The sword light did not weaken. Instead, it became stronger and stronger. Then it suddenly exploded. Boom! The terrifying sword chi instantly swallowed his entire right arm. Then his right arm left his body and flew into the sky. The powerhouse turned around and ran. Life was better than treasures. You want to run? Lin Xian sneered. The sword in his hand exploded again, and streaks of chaotic sword chi quickly shot out. The powerhouse did not dare to take it head-on. He quickly threw out two shields. At the same time, a blue pagoda appeared above his head and enveloped his body. He could only passively defend. He only wanted to escape as soon as possible. Boom! Boom! However, Lin Xian's chaotic sword chi was a heaven-grade technique. It was extremely terrifying. In an instant, the backs of the two shields were cut open, and the blue pagoda above his head was sent flying. All of the elder's defensive methods were broken. Seeing this scene, the elder's scalp went numb. He was scared out of his wits. He had never seen such a technique before. He knew that he had been careless this time. He had kicked an iron plate. The young man in front of him could not be measured by common sense. He was definitely a terrifying figure. Boom! At this moment, countless blood-colored sword runes appeared under Lin Xian's feet. Then, a black primordial shadow rushed out from within and turned into a huge black crocodile. Roar! The black crocodile charged forward with its bloody mouth open. In an instant, it swallowed the powerhouse. Boom! Boom! Dazzling light swept through heaven and earth. This breath could swallow mountains and rivers. Nothing could stop it. Sure enough, that supreme being screamed miserably. His body was cut in half and fell from the sky. Lin Xian waved his hand and took the man's storage ring. Then, he shot out a black hellfire and burned the corpse. After doing all this, he snorted coldly and turned around to leave. However, the battle was not over yet. In the next half a day, Lin Xian encountered two more attacks. Lin Xian didn't show any mercy either. Anyone who dared to attack him was mercilessly killed by him. When the other princes learned of this situation, their faces turned gloomy. That was because these geniuses and almighties were the elites under their command. Yet they had all been killed. How could they tolerate this? For a moment, the princes quickly joined hands and prepared to capture the other party. This was because they had also discovered that the other party was simply too powerful. Even though he was alone, he still had such combat strength. The 6th prince, the 7th prince, the 10th prince, and the 12th prince joined forces. The almighties and geniuses under their command also joined forces and formed powerful teams to surround and kill the other party. Among them, when a 3-man team found Lin Xian was cultivating. He was recovering his lost stamina, but when he saw another group of people coming, he suddenly opened his eyes. There was a monstrous light in his eyes. Humph! With a cold snort, Lin Xian decisively made his move. His black fist was like a mountain that shot into the sky. It instantly blew up a young prodigy. Boom! Blood splattered everywhere, and the void shattered. The remaining 2 people felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. They fled in 2 different directions. Their eyes were filled with fear. At the same time, they looked up to the sky and let out sharp booms. Come over, that kid is here. They had used all their power to create sound waves, so everyone within a 10,000-mile radius could hear them. It even spread further. Boom! 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 In an instant, a few terrifying auras lit up in the distance. They turned into streams of light and quickly charged over. Another 3-man team flew over quickly. Obviously, they were the closest to this place. These 3 people joined up with the previous 2. There were a total of 5 people, 2 almighties and 3 young geniuses. They were like killing gods as they stared at Lin Xian. Kid, you're very arrogant. How dare you kill our people? Today is the day you die. Kneel down and accept your death obediently, and we'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. The few of them stared at Lin Xian with cold expressions like wild beasts. Because the 5 of them were confident that they could destroy everything when they joined forces. No matter how strong the other party was, it was impossible for him to fight against them. You want to take me down with just the 5 of you? Lin Xian sneered. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. As he said that, he took a step forward, and the entire world trembled. Seeing that the other parties still dared to attack, the 5 of them were furious. They quickly attacked at the same time. Streams of light pierced through the void and blasted the nearby mountain peaks. Whoosh! Lin Xian used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. His speed was extremely fast, and he dodged in an instant. At the same time, he took out a few formations from the black earth and quickly set them up. These formations were all created by the dark red divine dragon. The materials used were the treasures that Lin Xian had obtained in the past few days. The other almighties had also borrowed the materials inside. They were very powerful. Even if an almighty was trapped, it would probably take some effort. At this moment, Lin Xian set up 2 formations and immediately separated the 5 of them. Among them, a red-clothed almighty and a young woman were trapped together, while the other almighty was trapped alone. The remaining middle-aged man and a young man were still in the air. However, their expressions immediately became extremely ugly. Damn it! How could the other party have such a powerful formation? They realized that the 2 almighties were unable to rush out for a while, which shocked them. In the next moment, they felt Lin Xian's terrifying gaze and trembled. They were no match for Lin Xian at all. The reason why they dared to attack was because the 5 of them together formed a terrifying chain attack. But now the 2 of them were not enough. After all, they knew that Lin Xian had already killed many almighties and geniuses. You want to kill me? Snatch the treasures? With just you? Lin Xian sneered and attacked decisively. Brother Lin, this is a misunderstanding. Listen to me. The middle-aged man hurriedly explained. However, it was useless. Lin Xian did not give them any chance. He had already made up his mind to kill anyone who dared to come and kill him. He would not let anyone go. Boom! Lin Xian attacked decisively. The chaotic sword chi slashed out and instantly sent the middle-aged man flying. As for the young king, he was split apart by the sword. It was too terrifying. Chapter 2159. In just one exchange, a young genius was killed. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood as cracks appeared on his armor. Then it shattered into pieces and exploded. Instantly, the middle-aged man gasped. The armor had saved his life previously, but now, he was afraid that he would not be able to block the second attack. Damn it! Go to hell! The middle-aged man roared. He knew that it was impossible for him to escape. He could only fight with his life on the line to have a chance of survival. He knew that no matter how powerful the array was, it would not be able to trap the 2 mighty figures for too long. He only needed to wait for the 2 mighty figures to come out, and he would be safe. So in the next moment he pulled out a red spear and rushed over. Boom! Boom! As the spear pierced out, the entire void was pierced through. A terrifying energy storm swept out towards Lin Xian. Slash! Lin Xian swung his sword. Chaotic sword chi fell and shattered all 300 rays of light. At the same time he threw out a punch. The terrifying fist turned into a black dragon and rushed out. The black dragon was formed by hellfire. It carried a terrifying flame aura and instantly swallowed the middle-aged man. Ah! The middle-aged man roared crazily. His body began to burn with black flames. He wanted to extinguish the flames crazily, but it was impossible. Whoosh! 3 seconds later, he was burned to ashes. The entire process seemed slow, but it only happened for 5 seconds. The 2 mighty figures who were attacking the array saw this scene and felt a chill in their hearts. Buzz! Lin Xian waved his hand, and the array formation around one of the trapped mighty ones was instantly removed. However, the array was controlled by him and placed on another mighty figure and a young woman. Damn it! The 2 of them saw this scene and their faces darkened. The reason for that was because they'd already caused cracks to appear in the surrounding spirit formations. Yet now, another spirit formation had been added. This made it extremely difficult for them to escape. Next, it's you. Lin Xian smirked as he looked at the elite mighty figure that he had just released. You're courting death. Kid, you're too arrogant. Seeing that the other party was going to attack him, the elite mighty figure was furious. Boom. In the next moment, the Almighty opened his mouth and spat out a blue giant hammer. It was surrounded by terrifying lightning. Then the hammer descended. The heavens fell, and the earth cracked. The terrifying power of thunder and lightning instantly smashed towards Lin Xian. Boom! Lin Xian slashed out with his sword, and a 1,000-meter-long sword chi transformed into an ancient phantom. Its huge body slammed into the blue hammer with a heaven-shaking boom. Boom! In the end, the blue hammer's terrifying sword chi phantom directly unfolded. Terrifying sword waves spread out in all directions like ocean waves. The surrounding dozens of mountains were flattened in an instant. Damn it, why is his sword chi so powerful? That elite expert's expression changed. Although he knew that the other party was very strong, he found that the other party's strength was a little surprising after the real fight. Wang. Thinking of this, he snorted coldly and summoned his king's domain, which circled around him. At the same time, he pulled out a treasured sword, the vermilion bird sword. He slashed out with his sword, and a monstrous sword light transformed into a gigantic vermilion bird, which rapidly swooped down. You want to compete with me in swordsmanship? You're really courting death. Demon-slaying sword array, break for me. The blood-red sword array quickly surged out, and then the ancient phantom appeared in the sky, fighting with the vermilion bird. In less than 3 moves, the vermilion bird was torn apart, turning into countless flames that scattered in all directions. The surrounding forest was set ablaze. As for the ancient silhouette, it let out a roar and charged over. Damn it! Vermilion bird 3 techniques. That elite expert's pupils constricted, and he once again used his terrifying sword technique, striking out 3 ultimate moves. Fire God's Roar. Lin Xian didn't want to tangle with him at all, and he directly launched a powerful attack. Hellfire spread, and the Fire God's giant sword slashed down crazily. The sword fell, and the world was killed. The elder was wrapped in hellfire, and his body was cut in half by the sword. Next, it's your turn. Lin Xian's body was full of killing intent, and he was like a killing god. He turned his gaze and looked at the last 2 people. With a wave of his hand, he retrieved the 2 arrays. One of them had been destroyed, but the second array could still be used. He called it back to the Black Earth, and let the dark red divine dragon repair it, so that it could be used again in the future. After the 2 kings lost the array, they turned and fled. Although one of them was an elite expert, and the other was a young genius, they didn't dare to face Lin Xian at all. Buzz! Buzz! The 2 of them fled like crazy, especially the young woman, who spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. The blood mist enveloped her body, and then she turned into a blood-red lightning bolt, instantly streaking across the void. The elder also roared, and 2 wind wings appeared on his back. With a flap of his wings, he turned into a tornado and fled quickly. Facing Lin Xian, the 2 of them didn't dare to fight. Instead, they turned and fled. You want to leave? Lin Xian used the demigods and semi-devils, and quickly chased after them. At the same time, his long sword slashed through the air. 5 bolts of lightning struck. Boom! 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 Countless bolts of lightning struck the void, chasing after the 2 people in front. The 2 of them felt their scalps go numb. They raised their hands and attacked to block the power of lightning, but they didn't dare to take it head-on. The 5 bolts of lightning still affected them to a certain extent. At this moment, Lin Xian raised his hand again and struck out with his palm. 10,000 miles ice seal. The icy aura quickly spread, and the surrounding space quickly froze, forming a world of ice and frost. The 2 warriors in front were also affected by the icy aura. Their speed slowed down, and frost even formed on their bodies, as if they were about to freeze. Damn it! Their expressions changed. The icy aura on their bodies became thicker and thicker, making it impossible for them to escape. Boom! However, at this critical moment, 3 violent energy fluctuations suddenly came from afar. and then 3 rainbows quickly rushed over. Great, the reinforcements are here. The two of them exclaimed when they saw this. They were overjoyed. They didn't expect reinforcements to come at this moment of certain death. To them, this was simply the best news as far as they were concerned. Chapter 2160. Frost Spike. Lin Xian formed a seal with his palm and used the power of frost. Immediately, the blood in their bodies froze and turned into sharp arrows that shot out quickly. Bang! 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 Their bodies were pierced, and their internal organs were completely shattered. They fell from the sky. What? They were killed. Seeing this scene, the 3 people who were watching from afar were also stunned. They stopped abruptly, their faces filled with terror. What was going on? In just 2 seconds, the other party was killed? What kind of technique was that? That was an elite almighty, and a young heaven's chosen. Run! The 3 people in the distance did not dare to continue fighting. They turned around and fled. Boom! They came quickly and fled even faster. Lin Xian did not chase after them. This time, the golden runes in his eyes shone brighter and brighter. They could pierce through the void. Then, ice spread on his right hand and formed an ice longbow. He pulled the bowstring with his left hand, and an ice arrow quickly appeared. In the next moment, the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. That was because he had already locked onto a target through the heavenly secret divine eyes. The power of the great dragon sword soul was injected into the ice sword, and it was extremely sharp. Whoosh! In the next moment, the ice arrow flew out from Lin Xian's hand and tore through the void like a silver lightning bolt. The 3 people in front of him fled quickly. However, at that moment, the body of a young man was suddenly pierced through. An ice arrow pierced through his body. Then, the power of frost and the sword chi of the great dragon sword soul quickly spread and blasted him into a mist of blood. He turned into countless ice cubes and scattered on the ground. What? He was killed. The 2 martial artists next to him were about to go crazy when they saw this scene. They were already so far away. How could the young man be killed? How did that kid do it? In the next moment, they turned around and found that the young man was not chasing after them. That made them even more shocked. Damn it, it was the Bao. An old man's face was extremely ugly. What the Bao? How could he have such a terrifying penetrative power? Who knew how he did it? They had to hurry up and put up their strongest defense. The 2 of them did not dare to be careless and quickly put up their defenses. However, just as they put up their defenses, another ice arrow flew quickly toward them. Clang! The old man was sent flying. Fortunately, he was already wearing a suit of armor. However, the huge force still sent him flying. The void shattered, and the mountains collapsed. Countless pieces of ice formed on his body, and even the armor on his body began to crack. This arrow contained the power of the great dragon sword soul, and was extremely sharp. Puff! The old man spat out large mouthfuls of blood. He was seriously injured. The armor on his body was also about to be scrapped, because it was covered with cracks. Wung! At this moment, the second arrow came, which made his scalp tingle. Pung! The old man wanted to escape, but this arrow was extremely accurate. It hit the exact same spot as the previous arrow. Therefore, the armor that was already cracked shattered with a loud bang. His body was pierced through by a sword and nailed to the ground. Before the blood could flow out, it was frozen. The remaining mighty being swallowed his saliva. This method was heaven-defying. This was too terrifying. And he didn't dare to continue fighting. He immediately unleashed 3 layers of defense, and unleashed his king's domain, as well as a large bell. With 5 layers of defense on his body, he quickly escaped. Moreover, his speed had reached its fastest speed. He even burned the spiritual power in his body to escape. Along the way, he also encountered other King Realm mighty beings. Those people were puzzled when they saw this scene. What was going on? Was someone chasing after him? Or had he encountered a terrifying demon king? Boom! In the next moment, the King Realm mighty beings along the way were stunned, because they saw a blue arrow flying over from the distant horizon. It directly collided with the mighty being's body and exploded. Pung! The mighty being was sent flying and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. 2 layers of defense on his body were instantly broken. Damn it! He took out a handful of pills and swallowed them. Then, he absorbed the spiritual power around him and escaped at an even faster speed. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air. Just who was this person? Wasn't that too terrifying? They looked around and even used their soul power, but they did not find anyone. However, where did that arrow come from? From an extremely far place? But how did he do that? They did not dare to imagine. That was because they had to hide their auras. Ordinary mighty beings would not be able to detect them. However, the other party had accurately hit them. Boom, boom, boom. However, just as they were feeling puzzled, countless streams of light appeared in the distance. Then, they turned into ice arrows and quickly pierced toward them. What? Those people's faces immediately turned green. Damn, why are we being attacked too? In the next moment, those people started to defend themselves. However, a few of them who were too slow were directly pierced by the arrows and nailed to the ground. Seeing that scene, everyone went crazy. They ran for their lives, cursing at the same time. Fuck, who dares to attack us? Damn it, we didn't do anything. Why are they attacking us? Those people were really crazy. The mighty being who was running in front shouted in a low voice. Hurry up and run. The one who attacked us is Lin Xian. What? Are you talking about that Lin Xian, who obtained the rare treasure? These people were extremely shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. At the same time, they also knew why the other party attacked them. That was because they were also chasing after the other party. They did not expect that they would be hunted down by the other party before they even saw his face. Boom, boom, boom. The ice arrows that filled the sky were even more terrifying. In the end, not only were there ice arrows, but there were also fire arrows, thunder arrows, and wind arrows. All kinds of terrifying arrow rain swept over like a wave. There were so many of them that they had nowhere to go. They were like stray dogs that had lost their homes as they quickly fled. During that period, the weaker ones were directly pierced by countless arrows. There was no way for them to survive. The mighty beings roared crazily. Damn it, how is that possible? How can he be so powerful? I don't believe it. We're already 50,000 miles away. How can he lock onto us? His soul power can't be that powerful. It seemed that they had been attacked fiercely. Su Chen raised his head and looked into the distance. There stood an old man. The old man's face was pale, but his eyes were extremely sharp. On his black robe, there were star-like spots of light. You're Lin Xian. The old man looked ahead and asked coldly. That's right, I am. Who are you? Tell me your name. I won't kill nameless people. Kid, you're really arrogant. The old man snorted coldly. Listen up, I'm the Dark Knight King. I'm a top expert that the third prince invited. The treasure originally belonged to the third prince. Now hand it over obediently. The third prince again? Lin Xian frowned. Why? He doesn't dare to come himself. So he sent his underlings? But he really doesn't learn his lesson. Why did he only send you? Is he sending you to your death? I advise you to hurry up and go back. Call a few more people. Otherwise, you're no match for me alone. Kid, you're really arrogant. Hearing that, the Dark Knight King's face darkened, and a sharp light appeared in his eyes. You'll soon pay for your ignorance. The Dark Knight King snorted coldly. Then he rushed up, and a black light screen instantly covered 1,000 miles. Boom, boom, boom. The sky darkened in an instant. Originally, it was still daytime, but now it was incomparably dark. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. The Dark Knight King's figure also disappeared. Only a voice could be heard. Prepare to die after entering my Dark Knight realm. Dark Knight realm? Lin Xian frowned. What a strange king's realm. No wonder the old man dared to come alone. The Dark Knight King's realm was very special. This was also the reason why the third prince had sent him. Once this realm appeared, the sky darkened, and nothing could be seen. Even the soul power of a king was affected, and it was difficult to see clearly. In such a realm, one could only passively take a beating. Those with stronger defense would be fine, but those with weaker defense would not even know how they died. It could be said that the Dark Knight King was extremely terrifying. His soul was also suppressed. Lin Xian probed for a moment, and discovered that the scene was indeed similar to the Dark Canyon. Both of them had their soul force restricted. He couldn't probe too much. In that case, it would be difficult to find his opponent. Interesting. Lin Xian's lips curled up. At this moment a cold voice sounded. Kid, don't try to be brave. In my Dark Knight realm, you can't use much power. Don't even think about finding my traces. Now enjoy your death. Whoosh! A ferocious voice sounded. At the same time, a terrifying black sword light pierced towards Lin Xian's feet. It was as if it was going to cut him in half. Whoosh! Lin Xian's figure flashed, and he quickly dodged. That sword light slashed towards the void, and then disappeared. He dodged it. Seeing that his attack missed, the Dark Knight King was surprised. Chapter 2162. Boom boom boom. However, this time he missed again. Lin Xian's figure disappeared in an instant, and reappeared in another direction. What? He dodged again. How could this be? The King of Darkness hid in the darkness and frowned when he saw this scene. How could his opponent be so lucky? Damn it, no wonder you can be so arrogant. I didn't expect you to be so lucky. However, this time, I'll make a move personally. Let's see if you can still dodge it. Whoosh! The King of Darkness charged forward silently. He was like a ghost, without a trace of aura, and without a trace of sound. In his Dark Knight domain, he was the King of Darkness who ruled over everything. Nothing could go against him. Therefore, in an instant he appeared behind Lin Xian. He stretched out his hand, and countless black auras appeared. They were like ghost claws that silently grabbed at Lin Xian's back. If he was caught, he would probably die immediately. Buzz! However, his palm stopped when it was less than 5 centimeters away from Lin Xian. He could no longer move forward. How could this be? The King of Darkness finally couldn't help but scream. His face was full of fear and disbelief, because he found that a hand had grabbed his palm, making it impossible for him to move forward. What? How could this be? The elder was stunned. How could the other party grab his palm? That meant that the other party had caught his trace. But this shouldn't be. This was his king domain, and he was the king here. No one could catch his trace. Only a peerless almighty would be able to do this. But was the other party a peerless almighty? The other party was only a 6-star king. How did he do it? Just as the Night Lord was lost in his thoughts, Lin Xian turned his head around. Boom! At the next moment, the King of Darkness was shocked. His pupils constricted as if he had seen a ghost. Because at this moment, there were golden Taoist patterns on Lin Xian's eyes. They looked very mysterious. What kind of eyes were those? The King of Darkness was stunned. He had never seen such golden eyes before. It was too terrifying. The power it carried made his heart tremble. It was as if it could pierce through him with a glance. However, he was clearly hiding within his own king's domain. Your darkness domain is useless against me. Lin Xian sneered. Then, he exerted force in his palm. Crack! Ah! In the next moment, the King of Darkness cried out in pain, because his hand had been broken. Following this, countless traces of black aura flowed out of his body, and the darkness domain around him quickly moved forwards. Lin Xian sneered and let go of his hand. His figure appeared in another direction and dodged the attack. The King of the Dark Knight also took this opportunity to retreat. His face was pale, and cold sweat trickled down his forehead. The Dark Knight domain around him provided him with energy, allowing his broken arm to recover. However, he was extremely shocked in his heart. He had miscalculated. He had definitely miscalculated. His opponent had a pair of golden eyes that could see through his king's domain and clearly track his movements. This was something he had never imagined. His advantage was gone. Thinking of this, his face turned gloomy. However, as a terrifying elite almighty, he did not only have the advantage of hiding his tracks. Therefore, the King of Darkness did not escape. Instead, he chose to continue fighting. Kid, I admit that I have underestimated you. You are very powerful. But do you think that you can be arrogant just because of that? The King of Darkness snorted. My king's domain is not only useful for hiding my tracks. Whoosh! In the next moment, an extremely terrifying aura radiated from his body, and the king's domain around him trembled. Whoosh! The king of the underworld's body instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that it was dazzling. Whoosh! In an instant, he was in front of Lin Xian. The long sword in his hand quickly pierced out. Boom! Lin Xian also raised his sword and slashed out. The two swords collided violently. However, the King of Darkness did not take it head-on. He swayed and disappeared again. When he reappeared, he was on the other side of Lin Xian. Kid, speed is also my advantage. You can't keep up with my speed at all. His lips curled up into a cold smile. Moreover, his speed was getting faster and faster. You want to compete with me in speed? Lin Xian sneered. He did not use the demigods and semi-devils. Instead, a terrifying icy aura surged out of his body. Boom! A wave of icy power spread out in all directions, covering an area of 100 miles. Ice domain! You're an ice-type martial artist. The King of Darkness was shocked. He quickly retreated, because his body was covered in frost. He had no choice. The icy aura froze his power and slowed his speed. You can actually restrain my speed. The King of Darkness' face darkened. He did not expect his opponent to be an Ice King. The icy aura had greatly interfered with his speed. However, you're dead meat if you want to compete with my king's domain. The King of Darkness sneered again. He was an elite almighty. He was very powerful. His king's domain could easily shatter his opponent's domain. Thinking of this, he activated his Dark Knight domain and attacked Lin Xian's blue world of frost. Boom! 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 The collision of the two's domains was extremely terrifying. Cracks appeared in the surrounding space. Who told you that my domain is an ice domain? Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. Suddenly, a sharp light bloomed in his eyes. Immediately, the dragon sword spirit domain appeared and turned into a shocking sword light, slashing forward. At the same time, a monstrous murderous aura spread out. He wasn't an ice-type martial artist. He had other domains. Seeing this, the King of Darkness was shocked. He was wrong. He was really wrong. He did not expect the young man in front of him to be so terrifying. With his strength, it could be said that he could easily kill an elite almighty, because no one could resist his Dark Knight domain. But now, not only did this kid have a pair of golden eyes that saw through his tracks, but he also used ice to suppress his speed. Now he had an extremely terrifying aura that he could not resist at all. Door of Darkness. At the critical moment, the King of Darkness roared. His Dark Knight domain began to tremble, forming two pitch-black doors in front of him. Boom! In the next moment, the Dragon Sword domain slammed into the Door of Darkness, creating a shocking collision. Crack! However, the Door of Darkness only lasted for a moment before it shattered. What? He's so powerful. The King of Darkness' scalp went numb. He did not expect that the other party could even break his Door of Darkness. Damn it, I don't believe it. The King of Darkness roared ferociously. The black aura on his body became thicker and covered his body. Chapter 2163. However, in the next moment, he sneered and used his heavenly secret god eyes. Mysterious runes appeared in his eyes. They turned into mysterious runes. Buzz! A dark light shot out from the demonic runes on the King of Darkness' face and slashed forward. Soul ignition. Lin Xian's eyes were extremely cold. Countless mysterious runes started to spin in his right eye. Then, a ball of golden flames floated out from his eyes. Whoosh! Soon, the golden flame clashed with the black light and burned it to ashes. Not only that, the golden flame did not weaken and instantly engulfed the King of Darkness. Ah! 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 The King of Darkness screamed in agony. His body was distorted as he struggled in the air. However, after a few seconds he stopped struggling. His eyes were empty as he fell to the ground. The Dark Knight domain around him also disappeared in an instant. Boom! His body landed on the ground and created a deep pit. Cracks started to spread around him. Lin Xian slowly descended and came to the King of Darkness' side. He checked his opponent again and heaved a sigh of relief. The King of Darkness' soul power had been completely destroyed. There was no chance of him surviving. What a terrifying attack. Even Lin Xian was shocked. He could feel that the King of Darkness was an elite almighty. He was extremely powerful. Even so, he could not stop the golden flame from burning. What was even stranger was that the King of Darkness did not have any injuries on his body. Only his soul was burned. What a terrifying heavenly secret god eyes. He was shocked. Such a soul attack was impossible to defend against. This was a move that came with the heavenly secret god eyes. Lin Xian realized that as his strength increased, the heavenly secret god eyes would automatically display various powerful moves. This mysterious eye shocked Lin Xian. Even He too, and the dark red divine dragon could not understand it. However, although this move was powerful, it consumed more than half of Lin Xian's soul power. It could be said that with Lin Xian's current strength, he could only use it 2 or 3 times. However, 2 or 3 times was enough. After all, this was a terrifying killing move, and Lin Xian was using it as a trump card. With a wave of his hand, he took the Dark Night King's storage ring and left. Now that he had consumed a large amount of his soul force, he had to quickly replenish his soul force and recover to his peak state, so that he could face the upcoming battle. Fortunately, Lin Xian had a lot of heavenly treasures in his hands, so he was able to concoct some pills that were specifically used to recover soul force. Half a day later, his soul force recovered. Whoosh! Lin Xian exhaled and stood up. Now, as long as he wasn't surrounded by dozens of adults, his life wouldn't be in danger. However, it was not without threat. The Golden Lion King was the biggest threat to him. Other than that, it was the third prince and the first prince. There had been no movement from the first prince's side, but the third prince had tried to kill him time and time again. He had even released the news, asking the whole world to attack him. This caused Lin Xian's killing intent to rise. He decided to kill the third prince. However, before Lin Xian could move, another 2 figures flew towards him. The 2 of them were very arrogant. They didn't hide anything at all. They released a powerful aura and rushed over. These 2 were experts. Only experts would dare to be so powerful and confident. "Young man, are you Lin Xian?" At this moment, a charming voice rang out. The 2 figures in the distance arrived in front of Lin Xian. The one who spoke was a beautiful woman. She was in her 20s. Her clothes fluttered and her movements were light. However, there was a faint icy blue light in her eyes. However, her tone didn't sound like a young man. Instead, it sounded like a high and mighty deity. On the other side, there was a handsome man in a blue robe. His face was also very young, but his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. "Kid, I'll give you a chance. Hand over the rare treasure or die." "Here it comes again." Lin Xian's lips curled up. He knew it. The Dark Night King couldn't be the only one who came. He looked at the 2 people in front of him and asked in a deep voice, "Tell me your names. Which prince sent you here?" Were the first prince's men. The first prince was destined to be the crown prince. In the future, he would be the ruler of Tai Emperor's court. It was unwise to make an enemy of such a person. "How about this? If you hand over the rare treasure obediently and come back with us, the first prince might spare your life. It's not impossible for him to put you in an important position." The first prince's men. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. As expected, the first prince couldn't wait to make a move. "You want my rare treasure? Sure, but let's see what you're capable of." Hundreds of sword chi surged from Lin Xian's body and circled in the air. "You dare to attack us? You're courting death." The man in blue Spirit Fire King snorted. "Kid, I heard that you have the dual attributes of ice and fire. Coincidentally, we siblings also have the attributes of ice and fire. Let's see if you have the capital to be arrogant or not." On the other side, the beautiful woman Frost King sneered. "Ice and fire attributes?" Lin Xian was surprised. He looked at the 2 people in front of him again. Both of them have the attributes of ice and fire. What kind of special means do they have? They must be extraordinary, because ordinary ice and fire attributes couldn't compete with him. His ice and fire came from the legendary Cerberus of Hell. "Sister, why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him. He would bring his heavenly treasure and head to see the first prince." Spirit Fire King's expression was cold. His eyes were filled with killing intent. In the next moment, a pair of flaming wings appeared on his back. He charged toward Lin Xian with a fiery aura. In the blink of an eye, he was beside Lin Xian. He reached out his hand. This palm was vigorous and powerful. It was covered in flames, as if it was the palm of a fire god. It carried with it a monstrous power. "Humph!" Lin Xian snorted and waved his fist. Hellfire rushed out and covered his fist. Boom! The 2 of them collided. The two flames surged in the air. The terrifying energy lit up the entire sky. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sky was filled with flames. The red and black flames collided in the air. They were evenly matched. Spirit Fire King frowned. He didn't expect Lin Xian's flames to be able to compete with his. In the next moment, the flaming wings on his back vibrated. He returned to where he was standing. Interesting. The flames aren't weak. They're strange. No wonder you're so arrogant. Kid, I wanted to kill you for the first prince. But now, it seems like you have no choice but to die. Only by devouring your flames can I improve my cultivation. Spirit Fire King's eyes shone with a terrifying light. His cultivation technique was to devour different flames to purify his power. Now that he saw the flames on Lin Xian's body, he was naturally excited. He wanted to take them for himself. Me too. On the other side, Lord Tianshuang also stepped forward with a smile on her delicate face. I wonder what kind of ice attribute you have. Chapter 2164. Although she was beautiful, she was an old monster who had lived for thousands of years. Her attack was extremely powerful. With a wave of her hand, a terrifying ice appeared. Countless ice flashed under her feet. Then a huge ice spear rose from the ground. Like an ice dragon, it pierced towards Lin Xian. Whoosh! Lin Xian's body flashed and retreated. However, the moment he moved, the surrounding ice energy enveloped him. His speed slowed down as he was enveloped by the icy aura. In the next moment, hellfire surged out from his body and blocked the ice. An ice longsword appeared in his hand. Boom! He slashed out with his sword, slicing through the sky, and slicing the world of ice before him in half. What a powerful ice energy! What a pure sword of ice! Lord Tianshuang smiled satisfactorily. Not bad, not bad. Kid, I didn't expect you to be full of treasures. Since that's the case, the two of us will take them. Humph. What? You think you can take me down? Lin Xian scoffed. The two of them had appeared, as if they were in control of the situation. Did they really think that he could be taken advantage of? Kid, it seems like you don't understand the situation. If you fight us one-on-one, you might be able to fight us. However, we won't give you a chance. Don't worry. The two of us will give it our all. We won't give you any chance to escape. Although you didn't offend us. Who asked you to have such a rare treasure, and such a pure ice and fire attribute energy? Since you have treasures that don't belong to you, you deserve to die. After you die, we'll make good use of your energy. Lord Tianshuang smiled coldly. Buzz. Su Chen's face darkened as well. Cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. He summoned the Dragon Sword Realm, and enveloped Lord Spiritual Fire. As for himself, he pulled out his demonic sword and charged towards Lord Tianshuang. How dare you attack me first? Kid, you've angered me. Lord Tianshuang laughed. However, the light in her eyes was extremely sharp. Boom! She slapped her palm out. Instantly, a blue ice palm was formed and charged towards Lin Xian. Pung! In the next moment, Lin Xian's figure flashed and dodged the palm. However, the surrounding icy aura enveloped him. Then countless frosts formed and froze him in midair. It's useless. The entire space is within my attack range. Seeing that his opponent was frozen, Frost King smiled. I have to say, you're really too weak. You can't even take a single move from me. Boom! However, just as she finished speaking, the ice sculpture suddenly exploded into pieces. Then, Lin Xian took a step forward. His body glowed brightly, and he didn't suffer any frostbite at all. Had it been broken? He hadn't been affected at all. How could this be? Seeing this, Frost King frowned. This shouldn't be the case. Even though his opponent was also an Ice King, he was very confident in his own ice energy. Even if the other party wasn't injured, they would still be affected. But now, the light on the other party's body was resplendent. It was clear that he hadn't received any damage at all. How could this brat's physique be so strong? King Tianshuang frowned. What he didn't know was that Lin Xian had just used the immemorial demonic blood to refine his body. Naturally, his physique was extremely strong. Although his opponent's ice energy was terrifying, it didn't have much effect on him. Lin Xian was delighted. His physique was obviously much stronger than before. This was the effect of the immemorial demonic blood. As expected of an immemorial demonic beast, the power of its bloodline was indeed terrifying. Lin Xian clenched his fists. His eyes glowed as he smiled. Whoosh! He used the demonic 8 parts and charged towards his opponent. Do you think you're the only one who knows how to use the power of ice? Lin Xian snorted coldly. His body emitted a terrifying ice energy that froze the surroundings. The entire space turned into a world of ice and snow. You're not qualified to use ice in front of me. Frost King snorted coldly. Countless amounts of ice surged out of his body. The two's ice energy clashed in the air. However, at this moment, Lin Xian held the demonic sword in his hand. His body emitted a terrifying killing intent. Ice Piercer. He stabbed out with his sword. The blue sword light pierced through the void and sliced the entire space in half. Boom! The world of ice and snow that Frost King had created was split apart by the sword. What a powerful sword chi! Frost King's face turned pale as he hurriedly dodged. However, the sword light in Lin Xian's hand shone brighter and brighter. Then, it turned into a curtain of swords that covered the entire sky. Finally, 3 streaks of sword chi hit Frost King. Clang! 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 Even though it had hit the armor, Frost King was still sent flying. Frost King's face was pale. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. The blood in her body was chaotic. She didn't expect Lin Xian's sword technique to be so powerful that it could injure her. Boom! At this moment, there was an earth-shattering explosion behind her. Then, a sea of fire flew and blew away the dragon sword realm. Kid, do you think you can trap me with a small realm? How naive! Spiritual Fire King laughed coldly. Flames danced on his body, as if he was the fire god. His eyes were sharp. Lin Xian's face darkened. He waved his hand, and the dragon sword realm appeared beside him, emitting countless streaks of sword chi. After Spiritual Fire King came out, he looked into the distance. However, when he saw that Frost King was injured and her face was pale, his face darkened. Killing intent surged from his body. Sister, you're injured, Spiritual Fire King exclaimed. Then he turned around and stared at Lin Xian. Damn kid, how dare you injure my sister? I'll tear you into pieces. You won't have the chance. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Blood-red sword runes appeared under his feet. The demon-slaying sword array rushed up and covered the ground. Then the immemorial shadow appeared. The huge black body crushed the void, as if it was going to crush Spiritual Fire King into a bloody mist. This immemorial demon soul had been refined by Lin Xian, using the immemorial demon blood not long ago. Its power had increased once again. It was terrifying. It was as if a real immemorial demon beast had been revived. Its terrifying power crushed the void. Even the elites wouldn't dare to go against it. Not good. The Spirit Fire King was startled when he saw the ancient phantom, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. He did not expect that the other party would have such a terrifying ultimate move, especially the aura of the primordial phantom, which made him shudder with fear. In the next moment, flames surged out of his body and formed a red lotus. It kept expanding in front of him. It was as heavy as a mountain. Boom! 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 Then, the immemorial shadow crashed into the red lotus. Heaven and earth shook. Chapter 2165. His entire body kept retreating, creating a black hole in the void. Damn it! How is this kid so strong? Spirit Fire King steadied himself with an ugly expression. He didn't expect that other than the power of ice and fire, his opponent would also have such a terrifying archaic shadow. It seemed that he had to be careful of his attacks. Spirit Fire King formed a hand seal, and a fiery red armor covered his body. He looked forward again. What a dense fire aura! Lin Xian's eyebrows twitched as he looked ahead. He realized that the flame battle armor was no ordinary item. It should be a top-tier Earth-grade treasure. His opponent was indeed not an ordinary almighty. He actually had a top-tier treasure. Thinking of this, Lin Xian snorted. The dragon sword soul in his body circulated, and the dragon sword domain trembled rapidly. Then, countless sword chi flew out like meteors in the sky, all of them blasting forward. It's useless. My armor is a top-tier Earth-grade one. You can't break through my defense. Spirit Fire King sneered. Hand over the heavenly treasure obediently, or you'll die. Spirit Fire King then slapped his palms. and a monstrous sea of fire spread out, covering the entire sky. Go to hell, brat. At this moment, Frost King also charged over. The brother and sister didn't care about the rules of heaven and earth. They decided to work together to kill Lin Xian. On the other side, Frost King also unleashed a terrifying amount of ice power. It transformed into a giant ice snake in the air, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it pounced towards Lin Xian, as if it wanted to swallow him whole. Boom! 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 The battle was very intense, and the surrounding space trembled violently. This phenomenon naturally attracted many almighty kings. They had been frantically looking for Lin Xian, and now they were wandering around every corner of the secondary space. Naturally, they had to come and watch a battle of this level. What a terrifying aura. Who is fighting? This is the power of fire and ice. Is it the brother and sister of the first prince? Spirit Fire King and Frost King. They were both experts among the elites. When the brother and sister joined forces, they were incomparably terrifying. They could fight against top-notch experts. Who exactly was it that was contending against them? Was it the third prince's men or the eighth prince's? The people in the distance were discussing spiritedly. However, they only dared to watch from 10,000 miles away. They didn't dare to come closer. This was because the area within a radius of 10,000 miles was completely covered by a monstrous sea of fire and terrifying frost. What? It's him. At this moment, a middle-aged man's eyes emitted a black light that pierced through the void. He saw the situation inside and exclaimed, "What's wrong, old Feng? Who did you see?" The person next to him asked. Lin Xian was Lin Xian's son. The middle-aged man explained the situation. It was that brat. It was really him. A pair of worn-out iron shoes searching for nothing, only to find it by chance without any effort. An old man laughed loudly, while the others were shocked. Although they had found Lin Xian's whereabouts, the current situation was not optimistic. Even an idiot could tell that Spirit Fire King and Frost King were fighting for the treasures. If these two kings succeeded, it would be difficult for them to do anything else. However, they didn't dare to snatch it now. After all, Spirit Fire King and Frost King could defeat them if they joined forces. Hence, they could only watch from afar. But soon, they sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because they realized that Lin Xian wasn't at a disadvantage against these two powerful kings. Instead, he was getting stronger and stronger. Heavens, where did this brat come from? His combat strength was too terrifying. Many kings swallowed their saliva. In the distance, Spiritual Fire Emperor and Frost Emperor's faces darkened as well. Both of them were elite almighties, and their expressions could fight against pinnacle almighties. But now, even after joining forces, they couldn't take down a brat. This gave them a surreal feeling. How could this brat be so strong? Their faces turned ugly as they attacked even more crazily. Damned brat, go to hell! The Spiritual Fire King roared in anger. When he opened and closed his eyes, terrifying flames overflowed. On the other side, Frost King was also terrifying. She waved her hand, and the ice domain around her froze the entire area. Lin Xian was even more valiant. His eyes were terrifying, and his sword chi was overwhelming. He opened the dragon sword domain, and the terrifying sword chi turned into giant dragons that swept across the sky. The demonic sword in his hand became hundreds of feet long. Every time it slashed down, it would destroy a part of the world. Boom! 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 At this moment, Lin Xian displayed his powerful combat strength against the two elite kings. Thousands of miles ahead, energy rumbled as if the world was about to be destroyed. The people who were watching the battle from afar were all shocked and dumbfounded. Although they were here to capture Lin Xian, they couldn't help but admit that Lin Xian was too strong. If it were them, they wouldn't be able to withstand such a combo attack. One move would probably turn them into a bloody mist. But now, Lin Xian was still not at a disadvantage after exchanging hundreds of moves with them. How powerful and heaven-defying was that? No, Spirit Fire King and Frost King haven't used their full strength yet. I remember that they both have bloodline power. An elder's eyes flashed as he spoke. That was indeed the case. The others nodded. They had naturally heard of the power of the siblings. Their bloodline power would increase their combat strength by several times. If they used it, Lin Xian probably wouldn't be able to withstand it. Boom, 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 boom. Another intense collision. Lin Xian turned into a sword god, and the demonic sword in his hand slashed forward, clashing with the terrifying world of fire and ice. Then, the three of them separated and stood in three different directions. Lin Xian's eyes were solemn, and his body was filled with killing intent. On the other side, Spirit Fire King and Frost King's faces were terrifyingly dark. They didn't expect a brat to be so troublesome. Even when they worked together, they couldn't do anything. Some of the sword wounds on their bodies were caused by Lin Xian. They were still in pain and couldn't heal at all. Brother, don't hold back. Use your bloodline power. We have to take down this brat quickly. I feel that he's too evil. Frost King gritted his teeth and said, "All right." Spirit Fire King nodded solemnly. Then, the flames in his eyes shone even brighter. "Brat, you should be proud that you made us use our bloodline power." Then, a flame mark appeared between his eyebrows. Chapter 2166. Flame runes flashed around his body. Each of them was mysterious and emitted a terrifying power. On the other side, Frost King also used her bloodline. A blue snowflake appeared between her eyebrows, and the power of ice in her body became even more terrifying. Even the kings who were watching from afar were trembling, and their faces were pale. This aura was twice as strong as before. Everyone was shocked. This bloodline power was too terrifying. It could actually multiply one's attacks. It's over. That kid is dead for sure. That's right. Unless he also has bloodline power, he won't be able to fight back. What a pity. The treasure will belong to the first prince. Discussions could be heard. Obviously, these people thought that Lin Xian couldn't fight against Spirit Fire King and Frost King, who had used their bloodline power. "Go to hell, brat." Spirit Fire King roared and punched out. The terrifying fist tore through the void and smashed towards Lin Xian. Wang! Lin Xian waved his hand, and countless hellfire gathered, forming a huge flaming door in front of him. Pung! However, in the next moment, the flaming door was smashed into pieces by the fist. Lin Xian stepped forward and used demonic dragon 8 parts to dodge the terrifying fist. "It's useless. Stop struggling. You're not my match." Spirit Fire King's voice was cold. "You have no chance of fighting back after using your bloodline power. Kid, this is the difference between us. With bloodline power, we are the favorites of heaven and earth. We are invincible." Frost King also attacked mercilessly. She was like an ice queen who wanted to suppress everything in the world. In her jade-like hand, ice formed on her body, and she waved it forward. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, cold wind blew, and the air was filled with a terrifying icy aura. In the sky, Lin Xian's sword chi was all frozen, and then fell to the ground, creating countless craters. "This is the difference between us. Your attacks are completely useless against the power of our bloodline. Unless you have bloodline power, you have no right to fight against us." Spirit Fire King snorted. Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "I don't have the power of a bloodline, but what I have, you don't have either." At this point, he let out an angry roar. The great dragon sword spirit in his body suddenly erupted. Then, a sharp sword wave surged from his body, connecting heaven and earth, and spread out in all directions. Lin Xian's aura also became incomparably strong in an instant. So powerful. This guy's strength had also increased. How could this be? Could it be that he had been hiding his strength before? The mighty figures in the distance were all stunned. They didn't dare to believe it. Spiritual Fire King and Frost King sensed the change in aura. Their pupils shrank as well. Stronger, the other party's aura had also become stronger. Just like them, he had become incomparably powerful, far stronger than before. But how was that possible? They had become stronger because of their bloodline power. When they unleashed their bloodline power, their battle prowess would increase exponentially. However, what right did the other party have? The other party did not possess any bloodline power. So how could his battle prowess have increased? They simply could not understand. If you can't figure it out, then go to hell and figure it out. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He swung his sword, and a terrifying flaming sword slashed down crazily. At the same time his palm moved, and a thunderous palm slapped towards Frost King. At this moment, Lin Xian was like a god of war. He was unstoppable. Boom, boom, boom. Spiritual Fire King and Frost King counterattacked, resisting the terrifying sword chi and thunderous palm. Then they roared, "Damn brat, go to hell!" The two of them were really angry. Could it be that they couldn't defeat the other party after unleashing their bloodline power? They didn't believe it, so they attacked fiercely. Their fists were extremely red. This was the terrifying bloodline power. Together with the towering flames, it was definitely terrifying. Boom! The fist was like a sun that appeared in the sky. On the other side, Frost King also struck out with her jade-like hand. Her jade-like hand contained a terrifying bloodline power. It was like the hand of the ice goddess. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! 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 Lin Xian had completely exploded. He held the sword in one hand and slashed towards Spiritual Fire King. His other hand was clenched into a fist and punched towards Frost King. Boom! The sword chi slashed open the fiery fist, and Lin Xian's fist pushed back the icy palm. When the people saw this scene, they were all stunned. Some of the older generation people even exclaimed, "Heavens, isn't his physique a little too strong? He dares to fight against an expert with bloodline power barehanded. And he's not even injured. How did he do it? I've only seen such a physique on the Golden Lion King. But the Golden Lion King was a genius of the war tribe. Where did this brat come from?" These people were all crazy. The craziest ones were Spiritual Fire King and Frost King. They had unleashed their bloodline power, and were originally confident that they could crush the other party with the raise of their hands. The other party didn't expect that they couldn't suppress the other party. In fact, they were even suppressed by the other party. This drove them crazy. Damn it! Fire Spirit Divine Fist. Spiritual Fire King roared. His fists surged crazily, and like meteors, they smashed forward. Frost Seal. Between heaven and earth, the air was filled with icy aura. Then a mysterious palm fell from the sky, holding an ancient seal, and suppressed Lin Xian. Everywhere it passed, there would be clanging sounds, and the space was completely frozen. Spiritual Fire King and Frost King were really angry. At this moment, not only did they unleash their bloodline power, but they also unleashed powerful martial skills. Kill! Lin Xian roared as well, and his killing intent sword. He held the 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. With a swing of his sword, the fiery sword chi gathered, and a black sword light swept across the world. Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword. During this period of time, Lin Xian's Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword had improved, and it was much stronger than before. Therefore, when he unleashed it now, the weather changed. Boom! 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 After an intense collision, Spiritual Fire King roared. He was hit by 2 sword chis and blood gushed out. There was even a place where his bones were exposed. He couldn't believe it. The other party's sword chi was too terrifying, and it made his soul tremble. On the other side, Frost King was also hit by a sword chi. She was sent flying, and she vomited blood. Her delicate face turned incomparably pale. Lin Xian quickly unleashed the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword to fight with the other two. He didn't have any other moves, because he wanted to improve his sword skills in such an extreme battle. After all, the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword was a heaven-class sword skill, and it was hard to cultivate normally. Spiritual Fire King and Frost King were rare opponents, so he didn't want to let go of this opportunity. He wanted to fight to his heart's content. Boom. Chapter 2167. The Chaotic Sky Destroyer Sword in his hand was even more powerful. Lord Tianshuang and Lord Spiritual Fire roared in anger. In the blink of an eye, another 100 moves had passed. Just then, Lord Spiritual Fire released 400 streaks of sword light. Each of them was filled with chaotic sword chi. Lord Spiritual Fire roared and waved his hands. His bloodline power exploded and turned into a sea of red fire, blocking the 400 streaks of sword light. At the same time, he retreated quickly. Wang. After pushing Lord Spiritual Fire back, Lin Xian used Demonic Dragon's 8 parts and appeared in front of Lord Tianshuang. He slashed down with his demonic sword, Streaks of chaotic sword chi fell from the sky. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if countless dragons were flying down from the sky. They broke through the void and pressed down on Lord Tianshuang. Lord Tianshuang's face changed instantly. Her delicate face became ferocious. She did not expect Lin Xian to be so fast that she could not react in time. It was impossible for her to escape now. She gritted her teeth and activated her bloodline power, preparing to fight back. Ice God's Wall. Heaven Frost King quickly formed a seal. The ice field vibrated and formed 8 blue ice walls around her. Each one was hundreds of feet tall and towered into the sky. The 8 blue ice walls shone with runes and gave off a mysterious aura. The 8 ice walls were like mysterious ice mountains. They blocked in front of Lord Tianshuang and surrounded her. After using this mystique, Lord Tianshuang heaved a sigh of relief. Then, an ice armor appeared on her body. She did not believe that Lin Xian could break through her ice god's wall. Boom! In the next moment, the terrifying demonic sword landed on the ice walls. Suddenly, the ground shook and a cold wind blew. Frost started to fall from the sky. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks began to appear on one of the gigantic ice walls. The cracks quickly spread until the entire ice wall was completely cracked. Then it exploded with a loud bang. No! Lord Tianshuang roared and spat out blood again. She was hurt by this attack and was sent flying. However, she waved her hand, and the remaining 7 ice walls started to spin again. However, she had underestimated Lin Xian's speed. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xian had appeared beside her, so the ice wall had lost its effect. Damn it! Seeing this scene, the Spirit Fire King in the distance roared and rushed over madly. He had already healed his injuries, but he did not expect that his sister would fall into an extremely dangerous situation. Brat, if you dare to touch my sister, I'll tear you to shreds. Pung. However, just as he finished speaking, the long sword in Lin Xian's hand fell at the same time. Instantly, the attack landed on Frost King's stomach. Frost King spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the sky red. Her delicate body was like a shooting star, smashing down heavily. Boom! Boom! Dust rose from the great earth below, the great earth cracking apart. 4,000 li-long cracks appeared, and they were still continuously extending. The pupils of the King Almighty's thousands of miles away shrank when they saw this scene, and all of them were extremely terrified. To be honest, they had never dreamed that such a scene would occur. This was because they knew how terrifying Frost King and the Spirit Fire King with their bloodline powers were. However, Lin Xian's strength had exceeded their expectations and understanding. Ah, damn brat, I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you. The Spirit Fire King roared madly. This was because he realized that Lin Xian had sent his sister flying. He rushed over madly, his eyes red, and his body filled with killing intent. It turned into a killing sword, piercing through the surroundings. Boom! Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Demon Seal. At this moment, the sword light in Lin Xian's hand suddenly exploded. He had used the first killing move of the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword. Boom! A huge sword chi descended from the sky and struck Spirit Fire King's body, sending him flying. The armor on his body shattered instantly, and a terrifying sword mark appeared in front of him, almost cutting him in half. The spiritual energy in Lin Xian's body was quickly sucked out like water. He did not expect that the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword would consume so much energy. Especially this killing move, it had used up 1/3 of his spiritual energy. Whoosh! He sucked hard, and the spiritual energy in a radius of 10,000 miles quickly gathered towards him. The crowd in the distance sucked in a breath of cold air. They were shocked. Even the Almighty Kings were dumbfounded. They hadn't expected Lin Xian to be able to unleash such a powerful killing move. 5,000 miles away, the Spirit Fire King stopped and roared into the sky. His body was almost cut in half. His body was a blur, and blood flowed wildly. The mountains and rivers below were also destroyed mercilessly. Shock, fear, humiliation, anger, and all sorts of emotions revolved in the Spirit Fire King's heart, making him crazy. In the next moment, he took out a large amount of spiritual herbs from his storage ring and swallowed them. At the same time, he used his cultivation technique to temporarily suppress his injuries. and the bloodline power in his body burst out. Crazy, he had really gone crazy. No matter what price he had to pay, he would kill his opponent today. Therefore, in the next moment, fierce flames erupted from his eyes, burning fiercely. Boom! On the other side, a figure quickly flew up from the ground. It was the Frost King. She had been hit by Lin Xian earlier, and there were 3 sword holes on her body. Although she had temporarily suppressed her injuries, her hair was disheveled, and she was in a sorry state. You are the first person to force us into such a desperate situation. The Spirit Fire King gritted his teeth, and his voice was filled with killing intent. However, it is impossible for you to kill us. As he spoke, he flew closer and closer to Frost King. Seeing this, Lin Xian frowned. The powerful kings in the distance were also confused. What was going on? The Frost King and the Spirit Fire King still wanted to fight? But this should not be the case. They were both heavily injured, and it seemed like they could not even use half of their combat strength. How could they be Lin Xian's match in such a situation? After all, they could not even defeat him when they were at their peak. Now that they were heavily injured, how could they turn the tables? Why was he not running away? They could not understand. Could it be that he still had some trump cards? That's right, they still had some trump cards. Soon these people were stunned. The Spirit Fire King and the Frost King were close to each other, and their bloodline powers were beginning to merge. Kid, I will let you see our final killing move. Chapter 2168. Buzz. Their king domains intertwined in the sky. The power of ice and fire quickly gathered, and an even more terrifying aura burst out. What? Ice and fire fused? Their bloodline powers were actually able to fuse. In the distance, the King Realm experts were stunned. What was going on? It was impossible. Ice and fire were 2 completely opposite powers. How could they fuse together? But now it was happening in front of them. Even Lin Xian furrowed his brows as his eyes flickered. He did not expect the other party to possess such ability. But soon after he sneered. It seemed that even the heavens were helping him. He had the hellfire and sea god's ice, but he could only let them coexist. He could not fuse them, but the 2 in front of him could fuse them together. They must have some secret technique. If he could get it, he might be able to increase the power of his ice and fire. In front of him, the 2's aura burst out again. Their bloodline powers had finished fusing. An ice and fire domain circled in the sky, releasing a terrifying power. Brat, take our strongest attack. Ice and fire. Spirit Fire King and Frost King roared as they attacked together. Their king domains quickly slashed out a beam of ice and fire. A mysterious power surged. It was both cold and hot. The 2 completely opposite auras merged into one. It was like a beam of divine light descending from the sky towards Lin Xian. This attack was too terrifying. Even the King Realm experts thousands of miles away knelt on the ground. They could not take it. Lin Xian's expression was grave as well. He too felt a great threat. In the next moment, he took a deep breath and slashed out the chaotic sky destroyer sword again. Demon Seal. It was the same killer move as before. This time, Lin Xian was even more familiar with it. Countless sword chi flashed and formed a huge net. It seemed to be able to seal the world. Boom! The 2 collided. But in the end, the chaotic sky destroyer sword was stronger and sealed the beam of ice and fire. It could actually seal it. This was impossible. What kind of sword technique was he using? How could it be stronger than our combined attack? Spirit Fire King and Frost King were both stunned. They didn't dare to look at him. This was their strongest trump card. A powerful killing move formed by the fusion of their bloodlines. Even pinnacle mighty figures couldn't resist it. However, the other party actually managed to block it. What kind of swordsmanship was that? They had no chance to find out because Lin Xian had sealed the light of ice and fire. Then, he stretched out his palms and turned them into 2 green dragons. In an instant, Spirit Fire King and Frost King were bound and sealed. Loud and clear dragon roars were heard. Spirit Fire Emperor and Frost Emperor's faces were ashen. They did not have much energy left. There was no way he could withstand Lin Xian's attacks. However, in the next moment they were all stunned. The reason for that was because they discovered that although they were bound, the other party did not take their lives. What was going on? The two of them couldn't understand. But in the next moment, the world spun and they fainted. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian sealed the two of them, knocked them unconscious, and threw them into the black earth. He didn't kill them immediately, because he had his own plans. These two people were still useful to him, so he kept them for now. What's going on? What about Spirit Fire King and Frost King? Could it be that they were killed? The people in the distance were shocked, because Lin Xian's movements were too fast. Many of them didn't see it clearly. However, thinking about it, they were probably dead. With Lin Xian's terrifying means, the two of them would definitely be killed. In the next moment, Lin Xian turned around and looked around coldly. Then he said in a deep voice, "What? You want to attack me too?" There was a trace of cold killing intent in his voice. Instantly, the kings who were watching the battle swallowed their saliva and felt their scalps go numb. Many of them even ran away. What a joke! Who would dare to attack him? Didn't they see that the powerful Spirit Fire King and Frost King were defeated? Making a move against him now was truly an act of seeking death. In an instant, everyone left and didn't dare to get close. However, some of them secretly called for more people. Although they couldn't defeat him, they didn't believe that he was invincible with more than 10 or 20 of them attacking together. However, these people had all left quietly, and no one dared to appear in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted and left in a flash. However, the news of this battle spread like wildfire. Those princes who weren't here heard about it, and all of them gasped. They didn't even believe it. They knew how powerful Spirit Fire King and Frost King were. How could they be defeated? However, as more and more people spread the news, they had no choice but to believe it. Damn it! When the first prince heard about it, he was furious. He roared in anger. He didn't expect that his two elite subordinates couldn't defeat Lin Xian, even when they worked together. It was really unexpected. Damn it! Where was the Golden Lion King? He told him about Lin Xian, and asked the Golden Lion King to kill him. On the other side, the third prince, the eighth prince, and the others had all heard about it. The eighth prince was naturally happy. He then led his men to the location of the battle. The third prince's face was gloomy. Even Spirit Fire King and Frost King had been defeated. The Dark King that he sent must have been killed. Damn brat. Looks like I have to do it myself. The third prince also decided to lead a large group of people to kill Lin Xian. He didn't believe that Lin Xian could fight against his entire team. However, when they arrived, they found that Lin Xian had already left. This made them go crazy. However, the third prince believed that Lin Xian couldn't have escaped far. Therefore, they started a crazy search in the surrounding 100,000 miles. The Golden Lion King also arrived. He descended like a god of war. He then looked at the battlefield and snorted. "Brat, you can't escape." He then flew into the sky and disappeared again. However, Lin Xian had already left. He found a mountain range and hid. Then he entered the black earth. In front of the third prince were two powerhouses who were tied up. Lin Xian sneered and walked over. Spirit Fire King and Frost King had already woken up. When they saw Lin Xian walking towards them, they screamed, "Damn brat, let us go. You dare to touch us? You're dead. You still dare to threaten me?" Lin Xian sneered. "Looks like you don't understand your situation." He looked at the two of them, his eyes shining with a terrifying light. "What do you want?" The two of them felt their hair stand on end. "What do I want?" Lin Xian sneered. Time was not a limit for the peerless geniuses. Those peerless geniuses were often able to stand out when they were young and reach heights that ordinary people could not reach in their lifetime. There was no doubt that Lin Xian was also such a freak. Lin Xian naturally did not know what these people were thinking. After hearing the eighth prince's words, he thought for a while and said, "I have decided to take action against the third prince." Take action against the third prince. Hearing this, the eighth prince was stunned. The mighty figures behind him were also shocked. If they were in Lin Xian's shoes, they would probably take the safer approach to protect themselves. However, Lin Xian wanted to take the initiative to attack the other princes. Moreover, Lin Xian chose one of the three strongest princes. "I have two reasons," Lin Xian explained. "First, it is my own reason. The third prince has tried to kill me many times, and even spread the news to make everyone my enemy. Since he is trying to get rid of me, it is impossible for me not to be angry and not take action against him. Moreover, in the battle for the position of Crown Prince, your main opponents are the third prince and the first prince. The other princes are not a threat to you. As for the first prince and the third prince, the first prince is the strongest. Therefore, if you want the position of Crown Prince, you have to take action against the third prince. Only by taking care of the third prince will you be qualified to challenge the first prince. Yes, that is what I am thinking. The eighth prince closed the folding fan in his hand and nodded slightly. Then, I will take action against the third prince. I think you should know that all of us princes have trump cards that can save our lives. In other words, when our lives are threatened, we will be automatically teleported out. Although we will not be killed in the end, we will lose the battle for the position of Crown Prince. Therefore, when you attack, do your best to attack the third prince. As long as he is eliminated, we will win. Of course, they will also attack me crazily. So, you must be very careful. The eighth prince said in a deep voice. Next, Taoist Long and the other mighty figures began to analyze the battle. Who would defend, who would attack, and who would sneak attack? These were all things that needed to be discussed. At the very least, they could not act like headless flies. Needless to say, the main attacker was Lin Xian, together with the other powerful mighty figures. These mighty figures either had extremely violent attributes such as lightning and fire, or had powerful attacks, such as swordsmen and sabermen. The main defender was represented by Taoist Long. The rest of the mighty figures had ice, earth, water, and other defensive attributes. In other words, they had supreme defensive artifacts. They wanted to protect the eighth prince as much as possible. The sneak attack was mainly done by the Lord of the Underworld. This kind of assassination, dark and speed-type mighty figures were listed as the main force of the sneak attack. In addition, there were also formations, soul attacks, and demonic beasts. Since they had discussed the grouping, they decided to take action. However, these people did not plan to take the initiative to look for them. They decided to use Lin Xian to lure out the third prince and the others. They would wait at ease. Lin Xian naturally agreed to this suggestion. After they had set up the formation, Lin Xian went out. He came to the outside world to attract everyone's attention. Chapter 2170. After they finished setting up the formation, Lin Xian made his move. He came to the outside world to attract everyone's attention, especially the third prince's men. Boom! As soon as Lin Xian came out, he raised his hand and tore apart dozens of mountains and a few rivers. He even sent 3 almighties flying. His appearance naturally attracted the attention of others. Damn it, it's that kid. He's here again. Quickly report to the third prince. We can't let him escape again. Many figures flashed quickly. They didn't make a move immediately. Instead, they called for reinforcements. After knowing Lin Xian's combat strength, no one dared to fight with Lin Xian alone. Buzz buzz buzz. Lin Xian floated in the sky and formed an ice bow in his hands. One after another, frost arrows shot out and exploded in all directions. Instantly, the kings who wanted to escape to deliver the message were all destroyed. Only one person was left. That person was the third prince's man. That person escaped quickly like a shooting star. He even used a secret technique to cover his body with blood to increase his speed. The third prince. A bloody light descended from the sky and rushed into a valley. The third prince and his men were in the valley. At this moment, they were resting and adjusting to their peak condition. However, the voice in the sky woke them up. In the next moment, the third prince and the dozen almighties around him opened their eyes. What's going on? The third prince stood up and asked in a deep voice. The bloody lightning rushed into the valley and turned into an almighty. He quickly said, Third prince, that kid Lin Xian has appeared. He's killing people everywhere. He's here. That's great. The third prince was overjoyed. The other almighties also stood up. Let's go. The third prince waved his hand, and the almighties all rose into the sky and flew into the distance. On the other side, Lin Xian floated in the sky and created some huge commotion from time to time. Soon, He squinted his eyes because he realized that there were more than 10 rays of light in the distance. They were like rainbows that were rushing toward him. They're here. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up into a smile. Naturally, he could clearly see the figures in front of him. It was the third prince's team. Therefore, in the next moment, his figure flashed and he flew into the distance. Behind him, the third prince and the others roared madly when they saw this scene. Stop him quickly, don't let him escape. Wang. At this moment, a grand cultivator in a green robe raised his hand and threw out 9 green flags. They covered the sky and locked onto an area. Boom. Lin Xian was also sealed in that space. Boom. However, in the next moment, the space shattered, and the 9 green flags flew out. Lin Xian's figure flickered again, leaving that place. Behind them, the third prince and the others were chasing after them. They would definitely not miss such a good opportunity. Moreover, the distance between the two sides was getting closer and closer. Wang. Among them, 3 mighty figures who were proficient in speed burst forth instantly. They tore through the void and appeared in front of Lin Xian in an instant, blocking his path. The third prince and the other mighty figures behind him also caught up and cut off his escape route. In an instant they surrounded Lin Xian. Let's see where you can run to. Those mighty figures sneered. The third prince also walked out. Hand over the rare treasure obediently, and it'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, it'll let you know what it's like to beg for death. Humph. Lin Xian turned around. There was no fear on his face. Instead, there was a cold smile on his face. I've finally lured you guys out. What do you mean? Hearing this, the third prince frowned. The other mighty figures' expressions also changed. Could it be a trap? Boom. As soon as that thought came to their minds, countless rays of light suddenly lit up in all directions, forming a formation that enveloped all of them. Then, more than 10 figures flew over from the mountain range in the distance. They arrived in the void and looked ahead, laughing loudly. Eighth brother, it's you guys. The third prince looked around with a gloomy face. That's right, those people were the 8th prince and the others. Lin Xian had lured them into the trap, and then stopped, resulting in the previous scene. That's right, third brother, it's me. It's time to put an end to this. The 8th prince said in a deep voice. You want to fight with me? You're still not good enough. The third prince snorted. Although the 8th prince's strength was on par with his, and they were both first-tier princes, he was confident that he could defeat the 8th prince and the others. His biggest target should be the first prince. 8th brother, take your men and get lost. Otherwise, I'll eliminate you early. I should be the one saying that to you. The 8th prince's expression gradually became serious. I'll eliminate you today. After I'm done with you, I'll deal with my boss. Who do you think you are? How dare you eliminate me? The third prince sneered in disdain. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. A terrifying aura surged from the third prince's body. Then, a dragon-shaped shadow wrapped around his body. The mighty figures around him also exuded a powerful aura. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal family elders exclaimed when they saw this scene. Is the final battle finally about to begin? It's about time. There are only 7 or 8 days left. It's about time to clean up. However, they had always started from the weakest princes. This time, the 2 first-tier princes were going to fight with each other. This shocked them because the 3 princes who had the highest chance of becoming the crown prince were the first prince, the third prince, and the 8th prince. Now that the 2 of them are fighting, who wins and who loses will have a great impact on the future. Who do you think will win this battle? I think I'll be the 8th prince. He didn't suffer much damage. Moreover, Lin Xian obtained a rare treasure. I'm afraid that the 8th prince's strength will increase greatly. That was to be expected, as the third prince had suffered some damage in the Dark Canyon previously. However, I don't think so. I'm optimistic about the third prince. Although the third prince suffered some damage, the others obtained a lot of rare treasures. During this period, their overall strength has increased by leaps and bounds. Everyone discussed animatedly, each with different opinions. Everyone's analysis was reasonable. However, they didn't know what the final result would be. They could only watch patiently. Lin Xian, we finally meet again. At this moment, the first blade stood out. He exuded a terrifying saber intent. Why? You want to fight with me? Lin Xian looked at him. That's right. I've explored 5 or 6 ruins, and my strength has increased greatly. I'm much stronger than before. This time, I won't lose to you. However, Lin Xian looked at him and shook his head. You're no match for me. Hearing this, the first blade snorted. I admit that you obtained a rare treasure. However, I don't believe that you can fully use it now. Chapter 2171. 7 Demon Saber. Kill. As soon as the battle started, he used his strongest killing move with his first strike. It seemed like he wanted to defeat Lin Xian and prove his strength. A huge saber light appeared between heaven and earth. It was as if the heavens had arrived, causing the hearts of the surrounding almighties to tremble. The first saber's strength had increased by so much. It was terrifying. The almighties on the 8th prince's side were shocked, because they realized that the first saber's strength had indeed increased greatly. It was a world of difference compared to when he first entered. They thought that the other party must have had an unimaginable encounter during this period of time. However, Lin Xian shook his head slightly. Since the other party had made a move, he would show the other party his growth during this period of time. He stretched out his hands. A ball of icy aura surged rapidly on his left hand, and a black flame danced on his right hand. Then, he formed a seal with his palms and slowly put his hands together. Buzz! Hell's Ice Lotus. The blue ice and black flame merged and turned into a blue and black lotus. It spun rapidly in Lin Xian's hand, and emitted a monstrous destructive aura. Everyone's expression changed when they felt this aura. What kind of power was this? It was too terrifying. The almighties on the 8th prince's side were shocked, and the 3rd prince's pupils constricted. Damn it, this kid's strength is too terrifying. The first saber also looked serious because the aura of the Hell's Black Lotus was too terrifying. Even his body was trembling slightly. However, in the next moment, he clenched the long saber in his hand and slashed down. Buzz! The huge saber shadow swooped down and turned into a galaxy that slashed toward Lin Xian. Go! Lin Xian waved his left hand, and the Hell's Ice Lotus floated out quickly. Wherever it passed, the void was destroyed mercilessly. Boom! There was a shocking collision, and then the energy between heaven and earth exploded. The peerless saber shadow was instantly shattered and burned, scattering in all directions. As for the Black Fire Lotus, it collided with the body of the first blade and blasted it back. Puff! The first saber spat out a mouthful of blood, and more than half of the armor on his body was shattered. He had lost. He had actually lost. And he had lost in one move. He had lost even faster than before. Could it be that the gap between the two of them had not shrunk, but had instead widened? The first blade could not believe it. He could not accept this reality. Just as he was about to move, the qi and blood in his body began to churn violently, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. The 3rd prince and the grand cultivators around him all became serious. This was because they realized that the other party's strength was too strong. He had definitely surpassed the elite almighties. Kill! Kill them all! The 3rd prince roared. Boom! Boom! The surrounding kings quickly counterattacked, and their auras surged out. Many people charged towards Lin Xian, and even more people charged towards the 8th prince. When the 8th prince saw this scene, he waved his hand. Daoist Long unleashed his king's domain and covered the 8th prince. Following this, a few higher beings surrounded the 8th prince to protect him. The underworld king led a group of people and charged over. A great battle erupted, shaking heaven and earth. Everything within a range of 10,000 li was instantly destroyed. Terrifying energy surged into the sky like a volcanic eruption, causing the ground to collapse rapidly. The terrifying killing intent was like a tidal wave that swept out in all directions, causing the surrounding mountains to collapse. Under this wave of energy, nothing could be preserved. Buzz! 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 Numerous sovereign domains swept out in all directions, tearing the sky apart. The terrifying light connected with the stars in the sky. This scene was extremely terrifying. Boom! Lin Xian held the demonic sword in his hand and swung it rapidly, instantly sending a grand cultivator flying. Blood splattered everywhere, and that person crashed onto the ground like a meteor. Boom! Then he threw a punch with the back of his hand. Hell's Ice Lotus appeared on his terrifying fist, and it directly smashed a king who ambushed him from behind. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Xian fought in the air like a god of war. The third prince's people felt their scalps go numb as they looked at Lin Xian in horror. On the other side, the Underworld King and the others also attacked. In the sky, a huge purplish-black ball of light appeared, covering a radius of 1,000 li, forming a terrifying pressure. The other grand cultivators also attacked, causing the world to explode. This battle was too terrifying. Even the elders of the royal family in the Grand Imperial Hall were nervous. Boom! However, the third prince was definitely one of the top princes, and the grand cultivators under him were also extremely terrifying. Therefore, not long after the battle, the eighth prince's side also suffered a blow. Many people were injured, and 1 or 2 were killed. It could be said that the battle was extremely tragic. Kill! The eighth prince roared, and the Tao of Dragon aura on his body quickly surged out. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others felt a pure energy surrounding them. This was the Tao of Dragon aura, which could be used to increase the power of other kings. Now the eighth prince was using it to provide energy for Lin Xian and the others. As expected, under the Tao of Dragon aura, these kings were all excited. You're not the only one who has the Tao of Dragon aura. I have it too. The third prince also shouted coldly, and the dragon-shaped shadow on his body roared rapidly. The kings around him also received the power of the Tao of Dragon aura. Boom! Both sides fought again, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. This was a terrifying battle, and the terrifying power caused the entire ground to collapse. The void shattered, and there was nothing that could stop it. The third prince's side went crazy, and those elite almighties all activated their domains, enveloping the surroundings. Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other young geniuses were pale. This crazy battle was a difficult test for them. Fortunately, they had obtained some opportunities before, and their strength had increased greatly. Therefore, they were able to narrowly avoid those killer moves. The eighth prince's side also fought back with all their might. The Lord of the Underworld roared, and the pair of purple wings on his back were like heavenly blades, slicing one of the third prince's almighties in half. Fresh blood splattered like a sea of blood, circling the sky. The King of Darkness was finally enraged. The dark aura on his body swept through heaven and earth, and the surroundings were pitch black, as if they had come to the underworld. Boom! At this moment, 18 large flags suddenly appeared in the void, locking down the space, and completely trapping Lin Xian. 5 almighties instantly appeared, and their 5 king domains overlapped as they charged toward Lin Xian crazily. This was because they could see that the greatest threat here was not the older generation or the elite almighties, but this young man in his 20s. The other party's combat strength was too strong, and he would often severely injure them in just a few moves. This was too great a threat to them, and they had to get rid of him. Go to hell, brat! The 5 king domains flickered in the sky, and then they enveloped Lin Xian. Buzz! Lin Xian used the demigods and semi-devils, and instantly tore through the void and dodged to the side. It's useless, you can't break my 18 flags. Chapter 2172. Boom! As soon as he said that, he was stunned. It was broken. How was that possible? He was too shocked because a black hole the size of a house had appeared in the sealed space formed by the 18 flags that he was so proud of. Lin Xian retreated 1,000 miles away. Boom! 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 In an instant, the 5 king domains shattered the void. How was that possible? How did that kid escape from my spatial seal? He did not dare to imagine. Boom! In the next moment, Lin Xian made his move again. He charged toward the old man in green robes. He realized that the old man in green robes was too much of a threat. The spatial seal was especially troublesome for him. If it was someone else, it would be difficult for them to escape. Therefore, he decided to deal with the old man first before turning around to kill the third prince. Whoosh! Lin Xian was like a giant dragon as he flew toward the old man in green robes. You're courting death. Get lost! The old man in green robes roared and slammed his palm down. The void within 1,000 miles was shattered as a terrifying palm descended from the sky. Buzz! The moment the Chaos Sword art was unleashed, it was as if it was a comet that lit up the entire sky. The terrifying sword light tore apart the huge palm and slashed toward the old man in green robes. Whoosh! The old man in green robes retreated like lightning and dodged in the void. At the same time, the 18 flags surrounded him and formed a king domain. Seal. The old man in green robes waved the 18 flags and activated the sealing power to seal the void where Lin Xian was. However, it was useless. Lin Xian was like a sword god. His body emitted a dazzling sword light as streaks of chaotic sword chi surged out from his hand. In an instant, the sealed void was shattered. Fire gods roar. In the sky, a huge flaming sword slashed down and sent the 18 flags flying. 5 of them were burned to ashes. Damn it! The old man in green robes looked pained. His opponent's flames were too terrifying and could burn his Dharma treasures. In the next moment, the remaining green flags surrounded him, and he spat out a pagoda from his mouth. Suddenly, the pagoda rapidly enlarged and spun, forming a terrifying power. The sky was filled with green light, and the void was shattered. Large black craters appeared one after another. These rays of light shot towards Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian directly pierced through the void and appeared in another location. Azure Sky Pagoda. Many officials on the 8th Prince's side exclaimed in surprise. Among them, Daoist Long loudly reminded them to be careful and not be swept by the cyan light. Lin Xian furrowed his brows as well. The green pagoda gave him a sense of great danger. The green light seemed to be able to melt everything. It had a strong corrosive effect. That was how the black holes in the sky were formed. Fortunately, he had extreme speed and was able to dodge it. Otherwise, if he was hit by the green light, he would have been injured. Thinking of this, the hellfire and sea god's ice rushed out from his hands and merged in front of him to form the Hell's Ice Lotus. Go! Lin Xian waved his hand, and then the Hell's Ice Lotus spun and flew upwards. It immediately collided with the green pagoda and exploded. The green pagoda exploded, and countless cracks appeared on it. Even 2 floors of the pagoda were directly blown to pieces. No! Damn it! The mighty figure in green spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood with a ferocious expression. He did not expect his opponent to be able to shatter his Dharma treasure. In the next moment, he activated the remaining green pagoda and quickly charged towards Lin Xian. Humph! Lin Xian used the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword, and a shocking sword chi exploded. After a great battle, the green pagoda was cut in half, and the remaining sword chi shattered another 3 green flags. The mighty figure in green was in a sorry state. He was injured all over and quickly escaped. He did not escape far away. Instead, he returned to the 3rd Prince's side because the 3rd Prince's aura of the Tao of Dragon could quickly heal his injuries. Kill! With a roar, Lin Xian charged towards the 3rd Prince. As long as he killed the 3rd Prince and eliminated him, he would win. The remaining mighty figures had nothing to do with them. Lin Xian led his men and charged towards the 3rd Prince. Several elite mighty figures followed behind him, and their bodies were filled with killing intent. Courting death. Get lost. Seeing that Lin Xian had finally attacked the 3rd Prince, a mighty figure in purple robes beside the 3rd Prince roared. His voice was like the roar of flames, and it turned into a huge fire snake that swooped down. The fire snake was formed from purple flames, and it burned fiercely with a monstrous heat wave. It was a type of spiritual fire of heaven and earth, and it was extremely terrifying. At this moment, it was even more terrifying in the hands of this mighty figure. Lin Xian raised his hand and shot out an ice phoenix. The huge blue figure covered the sky and crashed into the fire snake. The Almighties behind him also spat out attacks that landed on the huge purple flames. Boom! 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 After being hit by so many experts, the purple flame snake was instantly torn apart. However, at this moment, the ground around Lin Xian rumbled. Rocks, walls, and mountains appeared around them. A bare-chested burly man stood in front of the 3rd Prince, and he kept clapping his hands. He emitted a heavy aura that suppressed the 9 heavens. Earth-type king. The other party formed a cage and sealed them. For a moment, Lin Xian, and the three mighty figures behind him were completely sealed in this special space. Myriad Form's domain. This was the other party's domain. It was like a vast world with huge walls everywhere. Bang! 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 Beside Lin Xian, a few mighty figures attacked and shattered the thick walls with their palms. They wanted to break out. However, it was useless. Every time one collapsed, more would appear, blotting out the sky and covering the sun. There was no end to this. No, if this continues, we will be trapped here until we die. The three mighty figures stopped attacking. Their eyes flickered as they tried to find an opening. Indeed, such futile attacks were useless. They had to find an opening. Lin Xian stood in front, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Occasionally, a golden light would flash in his eyes. Outside, the sky was gray. Lin Xian and the others were enveloped by a strange domain. The Earth-type king sneered. "It's useless. You can't break my myriad form's domain." Then he turned around and said to the mighty figures around him, "Hurry up and attack. Use your king domains to kill them." The mighty figures all activated their king domains, wanting to kill Lin Xian and the others who were trapped inside. However, at this moment, there was a shocking explosion in front of them. Then, a huge crack appeared in the myriad form's domain. Lin Xian and the others rushed out like shooting stars. "Damn it, this is impossible. How did he break my myriad form's domain?" The Earth-type mighty figure spat out a mouthful of blood. He was extremely shocked. He was very confident in his myriad form's domain. No matter how strong the other party was, they wouldn't be able to break it in a short time. By the time the other party was about to break it, their domains would have overlapped, and they would have killed the other party. Chapter 2173. Wild Thunder Eagle. As soon as he appeared, Lin Xian raised his hand and shot out a bolt of lightning. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky. Its speed was extremely fast as it charged towards Tianfang. "Protect the third prince." Seeing this scene, the surrounding mighty figures roared crazily. The earth element mighty figure even clapped his hands. Earthen walls appeared in front of them one after another. The earth walls were extremely thick and exuded a desolate aura, as if they had traveled through time and space. In an instant, more than 10 layers of defense appeared around the third prince. However, the wild thunder eagle was too violent. It was like a heavenly blade that instantly shattered 5 layers of defense. However, the wild thunder eagle exhausted its energy at the 9th layer of defense and turned into countless bolts of lightning that scattered in all directions. Seeing this scene, the third prince and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the other party was not heaven-defying enough to break through all the defenses. This was indeed good news for them. Lin Xian's eyes flickered because this was not his strongest attack. It was already very good that it could achieve such an effect. At this moment, a cry of surprise came from afar. It turned out that the third prince's men had also gone to kill the 8th prince. They quickly shattered a few layers of defense and arrived near the 8th prince. Fortunately, Taoist Master Long and the other elite mighty figures were very powerful and blocked this wave of attacks. Both sides had a tacit understanding. They were both going to assassinate the prince directly. Whoever succeeded first would win. Boom! Lin Xian made his move. He waved the demonic sword in his hand and pressed forward like a mountain. At the same time, the Lord of the Underworld also led his men to sneak attack from behind. The terrifying giant sword slashed down and split the void. On the other side, a huge purple ball of light appeared. Boom! In front of him, the earth element mighty figure struck out with both palms. His palms turned into 2 mountains and met the attack. The two collided and made a deafening sound. Boom! The earth element mighty figure was sent flying and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Although his defense was strong, Lin Xian's attack was even more terrifying. He suffered internal injuries with one strike. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian attacked again. The long sword in his hand slashed down quickly, and streaks of sword light pressed down like mountains. Bang! Bang! The earth-type powerhouse was sent flying, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. He was seriously injured. Lin Xian swung his long sword and performed the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword. Terrifying chaotic sword chi slashed at the other almighties. The sword light was like a ferocious dragon, and was extremely violent. The surrounding powerful beings all dodged. Boom! A Linglong treasure pagoda descended from the sky, and enveloped all of them, forming a powerful defense. Boom! A bronze cauldron appeared once again, forming a second layer of defense. The incomparably terrifying ice walls transformed into numerous ice dragons that coiled around the surroundings. 9 purple shields emitted the aura of thunder as they floated around the third prince. The third prince had formed an impenetrable defense around him, which was impossible to penetrate. However, the Primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer Sword technique was a heaven-class technique, and its power was beyond imagination. With Lin Xian's Great Dragon Sword Spirit, the combination of the two could be said to be earth-shattering. Boom! The 9 purple shields instantly broke into 2 halves and fell from the sky. The blue ice dragon let out a wail as its body was pierced by countless sword chi. What? How could he be so strong? Seeing the other party break through 2 layers of defense in an instant, these people were about to go crazy. They could not believe it at all. However, Lin Xian's attack was still ongoing. The Hell's Ice Lotus flew out and blasted the bronze cauldron away. Lin Xian strode over. The surrounding energy shockwaves could not cause any harm to him. His current physique was definitely incomparably strong. Buzz! Another primal chaos sword light directly sent the last Linglong treasure pagoda flying. Then, Lin Xian charged towards the third prince. Seeing that all the defenses were destroyed, the surrounding powerful beings roared in anger. They attacked and counterattacked quickly. The sky was filled with terrifying energy, and a terrifying domain enveloped Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian executed the demigods and semi-devils, and dodged the attacks with extreme speed, easily dodging the attacks. He appeared on the other side. At this moment, the Lord of the Netherworld had arrived. A huge purple ball of light crushed the surroundings, causing the King Realm powerful beings to resist crazily again. Demon Seal! Lin Xian seized the opportunity, and used a killer move of the Primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword to attack the third prince. Oh no! The surrounding powerful beings roared in anger, and wanted to counterattack. However, it was too late. The third prince's pupils constricted as he felt a deadly threat. Buzz! In the next moment, he opened his mouth and spat out the Flood Dragon scissors, which instantly turned into 2 flood dragons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they collided with the demon seal. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The third prince was pushed back, but he managed to block the demon seal sword technique. Although he blocked it, the third prince's face was gloomy. This was because it was too dangerous for him. He had never thought that he would have to block it himself. If there were a few more attacks like this, he would not be able to block it. Thinking of this, his eyes turned gloomy as he looked into the distance. Over there, the 8th prince was also waiting and mingling. At this moment, the 8th prince was also in great danger. Therefore, he also took out his ecliptic treasure. The 8th prince's ecliptic treasure was a golden divine sword. At this moment, it was swaying in the wind as if a golden dragon was circling around him, emitting a terrifying power. Whoosh! At this moment, the third prince's pupils constricted as his body suddenly moved to the side. The place where he was originally standing was directly smashed into pieces. The Lord of the Underworld appeared, and sneered before disappearing again. Damn it, form a formation and seal them. The third prince roared as the dragon energy in his body surged out, and poured into the bodies of the 5 kings around him. Then a mysterious formation appeared. The 7 stars formation. They did not expect the third prince to even use this formation. It seemed that he was really desperate. In the Grand Imperial Hall, everyone was discussing. They also realized that the third prince's situation was very bad. That was because Lin Xian's attacks were too powerful, and could threaten the third prince's life at any time. As expected, Lin Xian attacked again. He was like a god of war. A casual attack could tear the sky apart, even though his opponent had formed a formation. However, as a formation master, Lin Xian specialized in attacking the flaws and weaknesses of the formation, causing it to be unable to sustain. Damn it! How did he know the flaws of the formation? The third prince was so angry that he flew into a rage. Zixin, hurry up and do it! The third prince shouted. Next to him, a middle-aged woman stood out. The middle-aged woman was dressed in purple and had a beautiful face. When she heard the third prince's words, she took out a purple gourd. She shook it gently. Suddenly, a cloud of purple mist floated out and transformed into a terrifying beast in the air. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, 6 demonic beasts appeared in the void. They were not ordinary beasts but terrifying monster kings. Each of them was hundreds of feet long and occupied the void. They emitted a monstrous aura. As soon as the 6 monster kings appeared, they directly shattered the void within a radius of 10,000 miles. Chapter 2174. Go. The purple-clothed woman's black hair fluttered behind her as her eyes flickered. She controlled the 6 monster kings and quickly charged over. Brother Lin, don't worry. We have a beast tamer on our side. The 8th prince shouted and wanted to send out his beast tamer. However, Lin Xian said, there's no need. Let the beast tamer protect you. He'll deal with these 6 monster kings. At this point, the sharp aura in his eyes erupted again, and a monstrous sword light swept through the world. Hearing this, the surrounding king realm experts were shocked. The purple-clothed woman sneered. You want to fight against all of my monster kings alone? You're overestimating yourself. She was an extremely terrifying beast tamer. The monster kings under her command were not ordinary. Each of them was abnormally ferocious, far surpassing king realm experts of the same level. Now that 6 monster kings had appeared together, it was definitely terrifying. Therefore, in the next moment she attacked. With a wave of her hand, the fiery red bird quickly rushed out. This was a flaming eagle. It was extremely terrifying. As soon as it appeared, it spread its wings like a sea of red fire surging from the sky. That terrifying heat wave swept in all directions. Boom! The flaming eagle opened its mouth and spat out a huge fireball that rolled toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian stood in the void like a god, his body releasing terrifying sword intent. Behind him, the dragon sword domain appeared. Lin Xian activated the great dragon sword soul and charged forward. Boom! Countless sword chi intertwined, and a black phoenix flew out of the dragon sword domain. It spread its wings and covered the 9 heavens. This phoenix was formed by hellfire and sword chi. Under the effect of the great dragon sword soul, it was as if a real divine beast had possessed it. As soon as it appeared, it let out a long cry and shattered the 9 heavens as it charged forward. Could it be that this kid was also a beast tamer? When everyone saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. They thought that this was a real phoenix. But soon they shook their heads. Impossible. How could there be a real phoenix in the world? This was this kid's divine ability. Heavens, how could this kid have such a terrifying divine ability? They were too shocked. Little did they know that the great dragon sword spirit's offensive saint technique could simulate everything. At this moment, it was displayed by Lin Xian. It was truly terrifying. The 2 giant beasts fought in the sky. Soon, the flaming eagle let out a wail as its body was pierced through by the other's claw. A terrifying bloody mist appeared. After another 5 moves, the flaming eagle's body was split into 2 halves from the middle. The black phoenix let out a long cry and flapped its wings in the sky. So powerful! While the 3rd prince was astonished, the violet-clothed woman's face darkened. Her opponent had killed one of her demonic kings with a raise of his hand. This made her feel incomparably pained and driven her mad. In the next moment, she urged the 5 demon kings to attack the black phoenix together. Boom! Boom! The void trembled and quickly shattered. The black phoenix was being attacked by the 5 monster kings and was in imminent danger. Seeing this, the people on the 3rd prince's side laughed. They did not believe that the other party could still unleash such a terrifying attack. The 8th prince's expression was solemn, but Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. Comparing numbers? You're really courting death. Lin Xian stood in the dragon sword domain and roared into the sky. His body erupted with resplendent light. Everyone was stunned. In the dragon sword domain, thousands of sword chis intertwined rapidly. A terrifying phantom of a demonic beast flew out from within. Phoenix, Qilin, True Dragon, Nine-Headed Lion, Hell Demon Elephant, Peerless Serpent, Three-Headed Hellhound. Terrifying figures appeared in the sky. They crushed the 9 heavens and shattered the galaxy. It was as if real primordial demonic beasts had awakened. The terrifying aura made everyone tremble. Damn it, how could it be? How could he have such means? The third prince's side was going crazy. The violet-clothed woman's body was trembling. Her face was extremely pale without a trace of blood. She had a total of 5 monster kings on her side, but the other party had taken out nearly 50 of them. None of them were weaker than her. How was she going to fight when there was a difference of 10 times? Damn it, these were all energy bodies. They could not stay for a long time. As long as they persevered, they would be fine. A mighty figure reminded her from behind. The violet-clothed woman's face was gloomy. She naturally knew about this. However, she did not know if they could withstand the other party's attack. Sure enough, after a few moves, the violet-clothed woman's 5 demonic beasts were all killed. Blood dyed the sky. It turned into a sea of blood. A few huge corpses smashed onto the ground, causing billowing smoke. In the sky, the monster kings gradually faded and would disappear at any time. However, Lin Xian still waved his hand. In an instant, the 50 silhouettes of the one king charged towards the third prince. Block for me. The third prince's scalp went numb. He quickly shot out the flood dragon scissors and instantly pierced through 10 demonic beast phantoms. The remaining 40 or so demonic beasts mercilessly drowned them. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, the demonic beast phantoms exploded, turning into a fierce storm that filled the sky. Boom, boom. A few mighty figures were sent flying in an instant. The third prince was drowned and could not be seen clearly. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. Some of them even stopped fighting. The royal elders in the Grand Imperial Hall were also on tenterhooks. Would the third prince be able to withstand such an attack? They did not know, but they were very worried. The mighty figures who were sent flying in the surroundings used their king domains and quickly charged in to save the third prince. When all the light was torn apart and the energy faded, the third prince's figure appeared. His hair was disheveled, and he was in an extremely sorry state. There was blood flowing from his body. The flood dragon scissors beside him also had cracks on them. This was a top-tier treasure artifact. Now that there were cracks on it, one could imagine how terrifying the explosion was. The third prince was injured. Everyone was shocked. The royal elders also exclaimed. On the other hand, the 8th prince was cheering. From the looks of it, it wouldn't be long before they could eliminate the third prince and eliminate him. The third prince gritted his teeth, and his expression was extremely ferocious. Damn it! Damn it! How could the opponent use such a terrifying method? Even he was injured. If it were not for the flood dragon scissors protecting his body, the explosion just now would have eliminated him. Thinking of this, he swallowed a pill and used a secret technique to recover his body. At the same time, he summoned the mighty figures around him to protect him. From the looks of it, his strength had been greatly reduced. It was unlikely that he could kill the 8th prince again. Therefore, the third prince had the intention to retreat. However, how could the 8th prince and the others let the third prince leave? This was a perfect opportunity. If they missed this opportunity, there would be no next time. Therefore, the 8th prince and the others launched a fierce attack and attacked the third prince crazily. Chapter 2175. Almost no one could fight him one-on-one. Even if they surrounded him, Lin Xian could still dodge with his super speed. Damn it, he's too strong. Everyone's face turned ugly. They did not know that this was not Lin Xian's full strength. If Lin Xian used the Great Dragon Sword Soul and activated the Heavenly Secret Divine Eyes, these people would probably go crazy. Boom. Boom. In the end, several powerful figures were sent flying. Lin Xian slashed at the third prince. The third prince's pupils shrank, and he quickly dodged. He was swept by the sword chi and was sent flying. However, the 2 dragons firmly protected him. However, this was not the way to go. Some of the powerful figures around him were pinned down, while the rest were sent flying. There was no one left around him. The third prince's face turned gloomy. He did not expect to face the danger of being eliminated. Thinking of this, he roared angrily, "Eighth brother, do you dare to fight me one-on-one?" Hearing this, the surrounding powerful figures sneered. The eighth prince also decisively refused. "You are not qualified to fight me. You coward. You don't even dare to fight me one-on-one. How can you be the crown prince?" The third prince was furious. His opponent did not fall for his trick, which made him go crazy. "If the crown prince wants to fight me one-on-one, I might consider it. But third brother, you are now at the end of the road. Do you still want to turn the tables? Brother Lin, do it." Hearing this, Lin Xian held the demonic sword in his hand and strode forward. "Damn brat, I won't let you succeed." The third prince roared and launched a fierce attack. Anyway, they had the protection talisman, and would not really die. Therefore, he had to kill this detestable brat at all costs. The aura of the Tao of Dragon on his body burst out. The third prince crazily activated the dragon scissors and attacked. The two dragons roared and turned into demonic beasts that were thousands of feet long. They crazily attacked. The terrifying aura pierced through everything. Feeling this aura, the expressions of the eighth prince's elites changed. The third prince's strength was so terrifying. They were too shocked. Before this, they did not think that the third prince was that powerful. But now the third prince used his full strength, which made them extremely shocked. Lin Xian also activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul, and used the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword, and quickly slashed forward. The sword technique was incomparably horrifying, slicing the entire void apart. The boundless sword light was like the stars in the sky, exploding everything in front of it. The third prince's expression changed. He could feel the threat of death from Lin Xian's sword aura, which made him shudder with fear. However, there were terrifying sword chi all around him. It was like a cage that firmly locked onto him. He had no way of escaping at all. The third prince could only activate the flood dragon scissors and resist madly. He shattered some of the sword chi, but even more sword chi came at him. The primal chaos heaven destroyer sword technique was indeed a heaven-class technique. It was extremely terrifying. The third prince's yellow flood dragon scissors were beaten back again and again, and more cracks appeared on them. It could break at any time, but it was a top-tier treasure after all. It could hold on for a while, but the third prince's situation was getting more and more dangerous. Roar! The third prince roared. His eyes were red, and killing intent surged from his body. It was all because of this despicable kid in front of him. He was about to be eliminated. If he was eliminated, he would lose his position as the crown prince. He would never be able to take it back. Thinking of this, he roared to the sky. His black hair danced wildly. At this moment, he was like a killing god. He stared at Lin Xian. "Kid, I want you dead." The third prince took out another golden treasure box. The box was as big as 2 palms, and was completely golden in color. It was as bright as the sun and shone brightly. There were dragons carved on it. It was not an ordinary item. This is. The elders of the royal family in the Grand Imperial Hall were also shocked when they saw the golden box. Could it be that thing? This third prince was too bold. He actually brought that thing with him. What did he want to do? Many of the royal elders' faces changed. They had already guessed what was inside the golden box. Even the empress and his majesty frowned. In the battle, the third prince's expression was ferocious. "Kid, this is not for you to compete with me. You can go to hell for me." With that, he quickly opened the golden box. Suddenly, the sky was filled with red light, and the entire sky was dyed red. A monstrous bloodthirsty aura swept out, causing everyone's bodies to tremble. Even the elite higher beings were no exception. What is this thing? How can it contain such a murderous aura? Damn it, this is the blood essence of the royal family. Behind him, the third prince exclaimed, "Be careful, don't get hurt by that thing. This is the blood essence left behind by a supreme expert of the royal family. 1 drop is enough to kill a top supreme expert. If there are a few more drops, it won't be a problem to kill a supreme expert." So terrifying. When the other elites heard this, their scalps went numb. They quickly retreated. No one dared to get close to the third prince. Heavens, 1 drop of blood could kill them. This is too terrifying. This must be the blood left behind by a supreme expert. Even Lin Xian frowned. He did not expect the third prince to have such a treasure. Thinking of this, his face turned gloomy. He felt that he had to get rid of the third prince quickly. Otherwise, the third prince might cause trouble again. After thinking about it, Lin Xian did not plan to use the Tianji Divine Eyes. If he used the Tianji Divine Eyes, he could destroy the third prince's soul. But he would not be able to kill the third prince. Unless he really destroyed the third prince's soul, the third prince would definitely recognize his eye technique when his soul recovered. It was the legendary Tianji Divine Eyes. At that time, he would be mercilessly hunted down by the entire Tai dynasty. After all, this thing was more precious than any rare treasure. It was enough to make a supreme dynasty go crazy. Thinking of this, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and decided to use the second killing move of the Chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword at all costs. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body circulated wildly. Chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword Demon Seal. With a swing of the sword, a terrifying sword chi slashed out. The third prince felt that his life was not in danger. He frantically took out the drop of blood from the golden box. Buzz! The drop of blood was crystal clear, but it contained supreme energy and terrifying killing intent. As soon as it appeared, the entire void shattered. Countless cracks spread out for thousands of miles. It could not withstand the power at all. Boom! 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 The two exploded and collided. The entire void was torn apart in an instant. In front of him, the dazzling chaotic sword chi collided with it and shattered. This was a heaven-class cultivation technique. It shattered in an instant. One could imagine how terrifying the power contained in the blood was. However, although the demon sealing sword chi was shattered, the energy in the blood was mostly depleted. The murderous aura on it was not as fierce as before. Chapter 2176. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. They wanted to know if Lin Xian could withstand it. Lin Xian focused his gaze and his eyes shone brightly. Then he used his second killer move. Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Battle Song. A sword chi that was even more terrifying than the previous one slashed out and sliced the blood into two. The terrifying sword essence on it frantically destroyed the energy inside. Boom! At the same time, the entire sky was split apart. What? It was sliced apart. The third prince's pupils constricted when he saw this. He did not expect that his last killer move would be broken apart by his opponent. He could not believe it. In the next moment, he was sent flying by the sword chi and vomited blood. Crack, crack, crack. More than half of the third prince's bones were broken, and the golden box in his hand was also sliced apart. However, he did not teleport out. Lin Xian roared when he saw this. The sword soul in his body circulated crazily, and a dragon-shaped sword chi was slashed out. Roar! When the sword slashed out, a loud dragon's roar could be heard and countless lightning bolts seemed to fall from the sky. No! You can't kill me! The third prince roared crazily. This sword was even more terrifying than the previous one. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. He could not withstand it at all. He wanted to escape, but he could not do so. In the next moment, he was drowned by the sword light. No! Many mighty figures exclaimed when they saw this. Their faces were ashen and filled with despair. They could feel that this sword was too terrifying. Even if the third prince was not injured, he would not be able to withstand it. Now that the third prince was seriously injured, he would not be able to withstand it. If the third prince was eliminated, then all of them would be eliminated. In that case, they would not be able to receive the baptism of the imperial dragon bloodline. In front of them, the violent energy continued to flood the area. The surrounding people could not see it clearly. However, everyone's eyes were extremely serious, whether it was the third prince or the eighth prince. Buzz, buzz, buzz. However, at this moment, all the mighty figures on the third prince's side emitted light. A terrifying spatial energy quickly formed on their bodies. What is this? These people's expressions changed, but the eighth prince was ecstatic. We won, we won. The Nether King, Taoist Long, and the others gasped when they heard this. Their eyes shone brightly. They were too excited. This meant that the third prince had been eliminated, and the remaining powerhouses would also be teleported out. Sure enough, in the next moment, these powerful beings were enveloped by a mysterious force. They tore through the void and disappeared. In front of him, the energy vortex also gradually disappeared before dispersing. The void in front of him quickly healed, and the third prince was nowhere to be seen. Seeing this, the eighth prince cheered. Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal elders were all extremely shocked. They never thought that the third prince would actually lose. How could this be? The elders who supported the third prince all had ugly expressions on their faces as they gnashed their teeth. Those who supported the eighth prince were very excited. Inside the imperial palace, there was another hall. There was a huge formation there. It was very mysterious. The array suddenly flickered, and then a figure appeared. This person was the third prince. As soon as he appeared, he roared furiously at the sky, as if he had gone mad. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The third prince gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot, and the murderous aura on his body pierced through the void. Lin Xian, how dare you eliminate me? I will definitely kill you. I will tear you into pieces. The third prince roared crazily. However, no matter how much he roared, he could not change the fact that he had been eliminated. The news of the third prince's appearance swept out like a gust of wind. When the other princes heard about it, they were all extremely shocked and could not believe it. To be honest, if it were the second prince, the sixth prince, or the seventh prince who had been eliminated, they would not be shocked. They would not be too shocked. After all, these princes were ordinary and would be eliminated sooner or later. However, the first to be eliminated was the third prince. The third prince was one of the three most powerful princes. His strength was extremely terrifying. He was the most popular prince in the crown prince competition. There was a high chance that he would become the crown prince. However, such a person had been eliminated. How could they not be shocked? When they found out that it was the eighth prince who eliminated the third prince, they all fell silent. Because the eighth prince was also one of the three most powerful princes. Now that he had defeated the third prince, it could be said that he was extremely powerful. Perhaps only the first prince could fight against him. After the first prince received the news, his face turned gloomy, and he snorted coldly. This eighth prince was able to defeat the third prince. That really surprised me. However, he is still far from being able to deal with me. The first prince should not let his guard down. I feel that the eighth prince being able to defeat the third prince must have something to do with that Lin Xian. After all, he had just obtained a rare treasure. Perhaps it was the rare treasure that played a role. Yes, that's right. I think so too. After the first prince said that, the surrounding powerful figures nodded their heads. The first prince's eyes flickered. Then he said, "Where is the Golden Lion King? Let him come back. We will meet him." Lin Xian had already met up with the eighth prince. It would be dangerous for him to go alone. Moreover, now that he calculated the time, it was almost time for the final battle. Let's eliminate the other princes first. Next, the first prince began to take action. He did not specifically look for the eighth prince. Instead, he pushed his way through. He eliminated all the princes that he encountered along the way. The eighth prince had the same plan. He also pushed his way through. Soon, the weaker princes were eliminated. In the end, only the first prince, the eighth prince, and the stronger fourth prince, the ninth prince, and the 15th prince were left. Among them, the ninth prince and the 15th prince joined forces to fight against the first prince. On the other side, the eighth prince and the fourth prince met. Ninth prince, 15th prince, you two should admit defeat. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. You want us to admit defeat? Sure, show us your true strength and defeat us. Otherwise, it's impossible for us to surrender with just a few words. The ninth prince snorted coldly. The 15th prince also had a solemn expression. The powerful figures beside them all looked as if they were facing a great enemy. You're courting death. Since you want to fight me, I won't hold back. The first prince sneered. Then, a huge dragon appeared on his body. Go kill them. The first prince shouted coldly. The powerful figures beside him also started to move. At the same time, a golden figure descended from the sky. He was like a god of war, suppressing the surroundings. Not good, it's the Golden Lion King. Stop him quickly. The 9th prince and the 15th prince roared. They knew how terrifying the Golden Lion King was. They could not let him get close. Chapter 2177. Boom! A fierce battle broke out. However, the first prince's side was too strong. Together with the Golden Lion King, the 9th prince and the 15th prince were eliminated in the end. 8th brother, you're the only one left. The first prince sneered. He waved his hand and let his men out again. On the other side, the 4th prince and the 8th prince met and fought fiercely. Among them, Jian Shisan stood out. He looked at Lin Xian and did not speak. However, the sword intent on his body was getting more and more terrifying. The aura he emitted was far stronger than before. Obviously, during this period of time, Sword 13 had obtained an enormous fortuitous encounter and improved his strength. Lin Xian naturally knew what Jian Shisan meant. Hence, he stepped out and sword chi surged on his body. Then, he used the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword and fought with Jian Shisan. What a terrifying sword technique! Jian Shisan and Lin Xian exchanged more than 10 moves and were defeated. His arms were trembling slightly, because his opponent's sword technique was too terrifying. He did not use this sword technique in the first stage. Could it be that he obtained it in some ruins? Jian Shisan was shocked. Jian Shisan was defeated and soon, the 4th prince was defeated as well. It couldn't be helped. Although the 4th prince was powerful, he was still lacking when compared to the 3rd prince. Since the 3rd prince was eliminated, the 4th prince would not be able to hold on for long. Hence, the 4th prince and the kings around him were all teleported out. In the royal palace, the 4th prince and the others appeared. They sighed as they knew that they had no chance to compete for the position of crown prince. Let's go. The 4th prince tidied his clothes and said, let's go and see if it's the 1st prince or the 8th prince who wins this time. Although he was defeated, the 4th prince was not too depressed, because he knew from the beginning that his chances of winning the position of crown prince were less than 10%. Hence, in the second stage, he led his men to search for all kinds of ruins and obtain the treasures to increase his strength. He had done his best to do what he should do. Hence, there was no need to be disappointed now. Right now he wanted to go and watch the final battle. Not only him, all the princes went to the Grand Imperial Palace. Those powerful beings also followed one after another. They were still in the camp of their respective princes, so they naturally had the opportunity to watch the final battle. In an instant, the Grand Imperial Hall became extremely lively. Everyone was discussing who the final victor was. Humph, was there even a need to think? It had to be the 1st prince. With the strength of the Crown Prince's lineup, as well as the Golden Lion King, who could be the Crown Prince's opponent? No matter how strong the 8th prince was, it was impossible for him to compete with the eldest prince. That's right, the final victor would definitely be the 1st prince. Many old men spoke bold words. It was obvious that they supported the 1st prince. Hearing this, the corners of the Empress' mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. However, some people didn't think so. Not necessarily. The 8th prince was not to be underestimated. Moreover, he still had Lin Xian. That kid had obtained a lot of rare treasures. I'm sure you've all seen the previous battle. Lin Xian's battle prowess is incomparably terrifying. He's definitely at the top. There would definitely be no problem for him to compete with the Golden Lion King. Yes, there would be no problem for him to compete with the Golden Lion King. However, do you think that the 8th prince would be able to compete with the 1st prince? Someone sneered. In short, everyone was discussing intensely. However, at this moment someone exclaimed, "Look, they've met." Hearing this, everyone shut up. They all opened their eyes wide and looked at the screen. They discovered that the 1st prince and the 8th prince had indeed met. The two sides faced each other in the air, and the void directly shattered. Seeing this scene, everyone took a deep breath. Their expressions were incomparably solemn. The blood in their bodies was about to boil, because this was the final battle. The 8th prince and the 1st prince had met. The eighth prince was incomparably solemn. The King Almighties behind him also looked as if they were facing a great enemy. After all, the first prince was the strongest prince. He had many trump cards in his hands, and he also had the Golden Lion King. It could be said that his strength was incomparably terrifying. Old 8. I didn't expect that the one who would fight with me in the end would be you. The first prince looked over and said coldly, however, against me, you have no chance of winning. If you don't want to lose too much, I advise you to obediently take your people and admit defeat. Otherwise, when I make my move, you won't have a good ending. Humph. The eighth prince snorted coldly. It wasn't certain who would win or lose. Since they had already reached the final step, how could he admit defeat at this moment? You're courting death. Seeing that the eighth prince still wanted to resist, the first prince sneered. The King Almighties behind him also emitted a terrifying aura. At the same time in the sky, a golden figure descended. Boom! A terrifying aura crushed down in all directions. The Golden Lion King. Seeing this golden figure, the eighth prince sucked in a breath of cold air. The moment the Golden Lion King descended, he didn't care about anyone else. His eyes were fixed on Lin Xian. Kid, hand over the rare treasure. Otherwise die. Humph. Lin Xian snorted coldly and took a step forward. His body emitted a biting cold aura. You want the rare treasure in my hands? Sure, but you have to defeat me. The rare treasure is yours. You're courting death. The Golden Lion King's face sank. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Then, a strange rune appeared between his eyebrows. His bloodline power immediately surged. That rune was extremely dazzling and mysterious. It made people feel dizzy just by looking at it. The blood and chi in the Golden Lion King's body was like a furnace, emitting a terrifying light. Rays of rainbow light shot into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted, causing everyone's expression to change. Especially the eighth prince's side. Everyone looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Their expressions were extremely solemn. They couldn't help it. The aura emitted by the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. It made them feel suffocated. Was this the bloodline power of the war tribe? It was too terrifying. That's right. He was only a 6-star king. But he already had the combat strength of a peak almighty. If he entered the realm of Almighty, wouldn't he be heaven-defying? Everyone was shocked. After the Golden Lion King used his bloodline power, the aura on his body became extremely sharp. His gaze was like a golden divine sword, piercing through the void. At this moment, it was as if he wasn't a human. Instead, he was a high and mighty war god, looking down on the common people. Humph. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Since you want to fight, I'll grant you your wish. As his voice fell, a terrifying light surged from his body. The great dragon sword soul in his body erupted. A majestic sword aura shot into the sky. Buzz! Chapter 2178. Buzz! With a slash, the primal chaos heaven destroyer sword was unleashed. Mixed with the power of the great dragon sword soul, it was extremely terrifying. Boom! The Golden Lion King clenched his fist, and the bloodline power in his body surged crazily. Then he punched out. When the two collided, shocking energy exploded, and the surrounding space quickly collapsed. An extremely powerful energy storm formed between the two of them. Not good. Retreat. When the surrounding King Almighty saw this scene, their expressions changed. They retreated crazily, and instantly retreated a few thousand miles. Even the first prince and the eighth prince quickly retreated. Soon, the space where they were originally standing turned into countless cracks and collapsed. Not only that, the cracks were still spreading. Soon it spread from 1,000 miles to 10,000 miles. The entire space within 10,000 miles was completely shattered. The violent energy swallowed Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. It was too terrifying. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them with fear and trepidation. Even the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall felt their scalps go numb. This was just a casual attack from the two young men, and it caused such a terrifying scene. If the two of them attacked with their full strength, how terrifying would it be? They didn't dare to imagine. The princes were also silent. Especially the third prince. He He was so angry that he was gnashing his teeth. His killing intent towards Lin Xian could be said to be monstrous. However, now that he saw how powerful Lin Xian was, and how he could actually fight the Golden Lion King head-on, he was even more furious. The first prince's expression was also solemn and somewhat cold. He didn't expect that Lin Xian could actually fight the Golden Lion King. It was really beyond his expectations. However, in the next moment he sneered. He didn't have the Golden Lion King, but the strength of his side was still very strong. However, without Lin Xian, the 8th prince's strength would probably be greatly reduced. Therefore, in the next moment, his gaze was like a knife as he stared at the 8th prince. Old 8, follow me to the other side for a decisive battle. Humph. The 8th prince snorted and flew away with Taoist Long and the other kings. After flying for 30,000 miles, they stopped. There was no other way. If they wanted to fight, they couldn't rely on Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. Otherwise, they would be affected. Let the two young geniuses fight. The first prince also followed behind and stopped. He sneered. Old 8, let me see if you've made any progress during this period of time. You will see, the 8th prince said. A dragon-shaped phantom appeared on his body. Then with a cold shout he attacked. Boom! Boom! Terrifying energy erupted as the 8th prince and the 3rd prince finally clashed. Everyone in the Grand Imperial Hall was astonished when they saw the dazzling lights dancing on the screen and Wuxia's divine ability. However, they actually wanted to see the battle between the Golden Lion King and Xian. But now, the first prince and the 8th prince were more than 30,000 miles away from Lin Xian and the others. They could only wait patiently. However, at this moment, a very powerful royal elder said in a deep voice. Perhaps the key to this battle was to see who would win between Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Could it be that the two young geniuses were already able to affect the entire battle? However, after thinking about it, it was indeed so. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but become excited. On the other side, Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King clashed, causing the heavens and earth to shatter. Then, the two of them stopped again and stood on opposite sides. The Golden Lion King's body shone like a god of war. He retracted his fist with a cold expression. Kid, hand over the Heavenly Emperor's treasure obediently. Otherwise, your end will be miserable. I've said it before. If you defeat me, the treasure will be yours. Lin Xian replied in a deep voice. All right, I'll let you see the ultimate skill of my war tribe today. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura on his body became violent again. He was like an immemorial beast. He recovered quickly. Nirvana scorching sun fist. The Golden Lion King waved his hands, and the power of his bloodline spread out. A violent aura swept through heaven and earth. Every fist was incomparably terrifying. It was like a sun blooming in the sky. This fist technique of mine is a set of ultimate skills of the war tribe. Under the power of my bloodline, it's incomparably terrifying. No one below the realm of supreme experts can resist it. You are no exception. The Golden Lion King transformed into a ball of fiery red sun as it charged towards Lin Xian at high speed. Is that so? What war tribe? It's just a legend. I was able to injure you last time. This time, I can do the same. Lin Xian pulled out the 9-nether demon sword. His body released a terrifying killing intent. In the next moment, he used the primal chaos heaven destroyer sword and faced the attack. Boom! Soon the two of them met in the air. The golden fist and the sharp sword technique collided once again. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Nothing could withstand this power. Lin Xian also frowned, because he felt that the other party's power had become stronger. It was even more violent than before. It was as if thousands of mountains were pressing down on his sword, making his demon sword incomparably heavy. Do you feel it? This is my true power. Do you think you can contend against it? The Golden Lion King's handsome face revealed a trace of malevolence. Then he attacked again, burning heaven and earth. The golden fist burned fiercely and turned into 2 golden suns. It attacked again and forced Lin Xian to retreat. The Golden Lion King walked over with large strides, creating countless cracks in the void. With every step, the aura on his body condensed. The power of his bloodline turned into strange demonic runes that appeared on his body. In the dark, there seemed to be an incomparably terrifying battle intent that was awakening and erupting. Last time, you injured me because I was careless. This time, I will use all of my bloodline power. I will let you know how terrifying the war tribe is. It's not something you can imagine. The golden rune between the golden lion king's eyebrows flickered. The bloodline power in his body quickly circulated. His fist turned into thousands of suns, crushing the void and enveloping Lin Xian. Each of the suns was incomparably terrifying. They burned fiercely and could instantly kill elite supreme experts. Perhaps even a peak supreme expert wouldn't be able to withstand it. Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He didn't expect this Golden Lion King to be more terrifying and powerful than he imagined. As expected of the legendary genius of the war tribe, it was absolutely heaven-defying. This was the most terrifying enemy he had encountered so far. In the next moment, he would use the primal chaos heaven destroyer sword. A terrifying sword light would surge out and slash apart the suns one after another. However, when the suns exploded, the energy formed would cause a terrifying impact to him. Fortunately, his physique had been refined by the immemorial demonic blood and was far stronger than before. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Kid, I didn't expect you to be stronger than before. Interesting indeed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.